If tonight were your last night, would you still want to carry these worries into your sleep? Picture this, it's late, the world outside is quiet, but your mind isn't. You've brushed your teeth, turned off the lights, and told yourself, tonight I'll sleep early. But the moment your head hits the pillow, the thoughts come rushing in. You replay that conversation from earlier, wishing you had said something different. You worry about tomorrow's work, the deadlines still unfinished, the bills waiting, the uncertain future ahead. And then, almost unconsciously, your mind drifts back to the past, to regrets, missed chances, relationships you once thought were forever, but that eventually faded away. You toss, you turn. The clock reads 11:30, then 12:15, then 1 a.m. Your body is exhausted, but your heart won't settle. And deep inside you whisper, why can't I just let go? The silent burden we all carry. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people lie awake just like you, with the same weight pressing on their chest. Some call it stress, others call it anxiety. In Buddhist wisdom, it has another name, attachment. Attachment is when we cling to what no longer belongs to us, or maybe never did. It's when we fight reality, insisting it should be different. We cling to the past, hoping we could rewrite it. We cling to the future, believing that if we plan enough, we can avoid pain. We even cling to emotions, ours and others, as if holding their storm could somehow stop the rain. But clinging is exhausting, and it never gives us what we truly want. A truth the Buddha discovered more than 2,500 years ago. The Buddha uncovered a simple truth. Life is impermanent. Everything changes. Flowers bloom, then wither. Seasons come and go. No winter lasts forever. Even the endless thoughts keeping you awake at night are like clouds drifting across the sky. They appear, pass by, and disappear. Suffering doesn't come from change itself, but from our refusal to accept it. Imagine holding a fistful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. But if you hold it gently, it stays in your palm. Life is the same. The more we try to control what can't be controlled, the more restless we become. But when we loosen our grip, when we allow life to flow naturally, peace begins to reveal itself. The broken cup. There's an old Buddhist story. A monk always drank tea from a small, simple cup. One day, a student asked, "Master, aren't you afraid the cup will break? It's the only one you have." The monk smiled and replied, "In my eyes, this cup is already broken. Knowing it will break one day allows me to enjoy it fully while it's still here." That is impermanence. When we accept that nothing lasts forever, not possessions, not relationships, not even this very breath, we learn to cherish without fear. What does this have to do with sleepless nights? Everything. Sleeplessness isn't just about a tiring day. It's a reflection of how we hold on to life itself. You want everything to stay the same, loved ones by your side forever, plans unfolding exactly as expected, the future crystal clear. You want mistakes erased, words rewritten, outcomes to match your hopes. But life doesn't work that way. And the more you resist, the more uneasy you feel. What letting go really means. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean apathy or ignoring life. In Buddhism, letting go simply means choosing peace over resistance. Letting go is recognizing the storm in your mind and saying, "I see you, but I don't need to chase you." Letting go is breathing through the discomfort instead of wrestling with it. Letting go is loving deeply without trying to control someone else's feelings or path. Letting go isn't weakness, it's strength. The strength to trust that life will unfold on its own, practicing mindfulness. So where do we begin? With the simplest and most profound thing, a single breath. When your mind races, when your heart pounds, when your body tightens, come back to your breath. Inhale, exhale. Notice the air moving through you. Notice that this moment, right here, is enough. That is mindfulness. being fully present in this very moment, not dragging the past back, not clinging to the future ahead. And the more you practice, the clearer it becomes. Peace isn't found in controlling life. Peace is found in meeting life, one breath at a time. Tonight, as you listen to this journey, try something bold. Stop trying to fix everything. Stop replaying old mistakes. Stop predicting disasters. Stop carrying the weight of other people's emotions. Instead, just be here. Let these words guide you. Let the teachings fall into your heart like gentle rain. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to force yourself to feel better. Just listen, breathe, and allow, because peace never comes from forcing. It comes when we finally surrender. Over the next few hours, we'll walk together through the Buddha's wisdom, exploring the true meaning of letting go. We'll uncover the hidden burden of carrying other people's emotions. We'll see why expectations hurt us more than reality ever could. We'll learn how regret, loss, and fear can transform into teachers. And most importantly, we'll practice returning to that quiet center within. This isn't about escaping life. It's about meeting it with clarity, compassion, and courage. So tonight, whether you're sitting still or lying down, whisper a promise to yourself. Tonight, I release what I cannot control. I choose peace. Say it softly, or hold it silently in your heart. Let it sink in. And as we begin this journey, remember, every breath is a chance to begin again. Now, let's step into the first lesson. What happens when you try to control something that was never yours to hold? Why control steals your peace? Imagine this. You're sitting on the couch after a long, draining day. The TV remote is in your hand, but you don't have the mental energy to watch anything. Instead, a list keeps looping in your head. That report is due tomorrow. Did my kid finish his homework? Why did my coworkers say that? What if things don't turn out the way I hoped? Do you notice? Even though your body is still, your mind is a storm. And at the root of that storm is the craving to control everything. The illusion of control in modern life. We often fall into the illusion that if we just hold on tight enough, if we plan far enough ahead, if we manage every detail, then things will go our way. But reality proves otherwise. You try to control your work, but deadlines still get pushed and projects still fall apart. You try to control a relationship, but the other person has their own feelings. Sometimes they pull close, sometimes they drift away. You try to control the future, but a single twist of fate can flip everything upside down. The tighter you grip, the more the sand slips through your fingers. The harder you cling, the more exhausted and restless you become. What the Buddha taught, the Buddha called this craving tanha, the deep desire to grasp, to make things bend to our will. And tanha is the root of suffering, the Four Noble Truths. Life is impermanent. Seasons change, flowers bloom and wither, people come and go. When we insist on holding what is always changing, we tie ourselves to a rope of tension that never loosens. It's like sitting in a boat on a river, trying to force the water to stop flowing. The more you fight the current, the more exhausted you become, and the further you drift from the shore of peace. A friend's story. A friend once confided in me. Every night before bed, she checked on her son 3 times. Was the door locked? Were the lights off? Was the homework finished? She thought she was protecting him, but the truth was, she never slept peacefully. Only when she learned to trust that her son had his own path to learn, that mistakes were part of his growth, did she finally rest deeply. She realized something powerful. Control isn't love. Control is fear dressed up as love. Common traps. We fall into mistaking responsibility for control. Responsibility means doing your best. Control means demanding every outcome follow your will. Believing worry reduces risk. In reality, worry only adds pressure. It never changes the future. Clinging to love too tightly. True love isn't about holding someone in place. It's about letting them be free to be themselves. Practicing mindfulness. Instead, Buddhism teaches us to return to mindfulness, to notice what's happening right now without judgment or attachment. Next time you feel yourself trying to control, pause, place your hand on your chest, breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly, then ask yourself, does this really belong to me? Am I carrying something I was never meant to hold? These small questions can release an invisible weight you didn't realize you were carrying. A nightly practice tonight. Before bed, try this simple exercise. Write down one thing you've worried about all day. Then look at it and say, I cannot control this. I release it to the universe. I choose peace. It might feel awkward at first, but with repetition, your mind learns to let go, just as your body naturally learns to relax after a long day. You see, the illusion of control is what robs us of peace. But that's only the surface. Beneath it lies another heavy burden, one most people never notice: the weight of carrying other people's emotions. So what happens when we try not only to control our own life, but also the storms in someone else's heart? That's the journey we'll step into in the next lesson. The illusion of control in modern life. Have you ever sat staring at your phone, hitting refresh over and over just to see if someone messaged you or liked your post? Have you ever scrolled endlessly through a work spreadsheet, double-checking every single number just in case something slipped through? Or maybe you've checked an email 10 times before sending it, even though you already knew it was fine. We often call this being thorough, but many times it's actually an illusion of control, a hidden belief that if we're careful enough, worried enough, checked enough, life will bend to our will. How modern life makes us addicted to control. Today's world pulls us into this illusion more than ever. Jobs demand accuracy down to the tiniest detail. Social media pressures us to stay updated, respond instantly. Smart devices convince us that everything can be managed from the palm of our hand. But the harder we try to control, the more helpless we feel. A project report can be scrapped by one decision from above. A relationship can break down no matter how hard you try to make it work. Even the smartest phone can't stop a wave of unexpected emotion from crashing in. Modern life doesn't give us more control. It just creates the illusion that we have it. What Buddhism teaches, Buddhism reminds us. Everything moves according to impermanence, always shifting, never fixed, and nothing arises alone. Every outcome is the result of countless conditions. Pratyasamutpada, dependent origination. Say you want a perfect workday. You plan carefully, prepare everything. Yet a sudden rainstorm, a traffic jam, or one message from a loved one can flip your entire plan upside down. This doesn't mean effort is pointless. It means our only true domain is our actions in the present moment, never total control over the result. A friend's story. A friend of mine in the US once told me he was a project manager who wanted to control everything, from his team's emails to the colors on their slides. He believed that if everything was flawless, he would finally feel at peace. But what happened? His team burned out, he was constantly stressed, and the project still ran into problems. One day, he read a Buddhist line: "You can give your best effort, but you cannot decide when the flower will bloom." That changed him. Instead of micromanaging, he focused on supporting his team to take ownership. The result? He felt lighter, and his team grew more creative. He realized the illusion of control had never made him safer. It had only drained him. Common misconceptions. Believing more control, more peace. In reality, more control often creates more anxiety because life never fully obeys us. Equating control with success. Many think losing control, failure, but sometimes letting go opens the door to new opportunities. Forgetting we are only one cause among many. Results don't arise from us alone. They depend on countless other factors. A small practice. Next time you feel crushed by the need for perfection, try this. Hold a small object in your hand, maybe a pen or your phone. Squeeze it tightly. Feel the tension in your muscles. Imagine this is how you hold life. Then, let it drop onto the table. That lightness you feel is a tiny taste of release, and you can remind yourself, I don't need to control everything. I just need to be present and do what's within my reach. Living beyond the illusion. When we see through the illusion of control, half the burden lifts. We stop blaming ourselves for things beyond our ability. We begin to live more gently with ourselves and with others. Instead of forcing life into a mold, we learn to observe, accept, and act with wisdom. That's the path of mindfulness and compassion. And yet, if modern life already traps us in the illusion of control, what happens when we also take on something heavier? Not just our own worries, but the storms inside the hearts of those around us. That's where we're headed next. The first step toward letting go, picture this. You're standing in a room full of boxes. Each box holds something from your life. A memory, a fear, an expectation, a relationship. You clutch each box tightly, terrified that if you let one go, you'll lose part of yourself. But soon you realize you're exhausted, weighed down, barely able to move. This is how many of us live, holding on to too much, forgetting that only by setting things down do we create space to breathe and to truly live. Letting go begins with awareness. In Buddhism, letting go isn't about suddenly dropping everything. It's a process, and the very first step is simply recognizing what we're clinging to. Many think letting go means cutting ties, forgetting, or abandoning everything. But it actually begins far more gently, with awareness. Maybe you notice you're trying to control someone else's emotions, or you realize fear of failure is steering every decision. That simple noticing is already the first step. The backpack story. There was a young man who loved mountain climbing. Every trip, he carried an overloaded backpack, jackets, snacks, and even items he never once used, just in case. One day, halfway up the trail, he was too exhausted to continue. A friend looked at his bag and said, "You could let some of this go. You don't need it all for this climb." Reluctantly, he dropped a few things. Immediately, his steps felt lighter, his breath freer. He realized it wasn't the mountain that made him weary. It was the heavy pack he insisted on carrying. Life is the same. The first step of letting go isn't discarding everything, but simply seeing what we've piled on our backs. Impermanence as teacher. The Buddha taught, everything is impermanent. When we cling, we act as if things are fixed, unchanging. But the truth is, emotions come and go, like passing clouds. Relationships shift, like the turning of seasons. Even our own bodies are changing every moment, cell by cell. Recognizing impermanence doesn't make us despair. It frees us from the illusion that holding tighter will make anything stay. Common misunderstandings. Thinking letting go. Not caring. In truth, letting go doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you love with freedom, without chains. Forcing yourself to let go now. Letting go is not a command, it's a process. The harder you force yourself to forget, the more it lingers. Confusing responsibility with control. Responsibility means doing your part with care. Letting go means not forcing the outcome to match your will. A gentle practice, Thich Nhat Hanh once said, when you recognize your pain, you've already begun to embrace and transform it. You can begin with something small. When anxiety rises, breathe in slowly, breathe out gently. Softly name it. Hello, anxiety. I see you. That's all, just acknowledge, without fighting or denying. This is the first step, seeing clearly, naming it and even smiling at it, a nightly ritual tonight. Before bed, take a sheet of paper. Write down one thing that weighed on your heart today. Instead of trying to solve it right away, fold the paper, set it aside, and whisper, "I see you. I'm not running away, but I'm not holding you forever. I allow myself to rest." That simple act teaches your mind the art of loosening its grip. As we take the first steps of letting go, the invisible burdens begin to lift. Our minds open up with more space. Our hearts find more room to love. This is the quiet miracle of letting go. It doesn't make us lose. It helps us gain peace. And if the first step is awareness, the next step is even deeper. Making a promise to yourself to choose peace instead of resistance. A promise to yourself. Close your eyes for a moment and remember the last time you made a promise. Maybe it was to a close friend, "I'll be there tomorrow." Maybe it was to your child, "I'll read you a story tonight." Or maybe it was at work, "I'll finish this task on time." We make promises to others all the time. But have you ever asked yourself, when was the last time I made a genuine promise to myself? The quiet promise that matters. Most life gets so busy that it's easy to put others first. We keep our promises to everyone else, but quietly break the small ones we make to ourselves. "I'll go to bed early tonight." But then we scroll on our phone until 1 a.m. "I'll exercise today." But instead, we sit at our desk all evening. The truth is, the promises we make to ourselves are the most important of all. Because if we can't keep our word with ourselves, how can we live fully with others? The Buddha's teaching on right effort in the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha taught right faith and right effort. A promise to yourself is the seed of that faith. Not blind faith that everything will always be perfect, but faith that you can return home to yourself, that you can nurture peace, one breath at a time. That promise is the seed of perseverance, like drops of water slowly soaking dry earth until life finally blooms. Candle in the dark, I once met a young woman who struggled with crippling anxiety. Every night she lay awake, her mind overflowing with thoughts. One day, in a group sharing, she said, "I feel like a failure. I promised myself I'd live more peacefully, but every time anxiety comes, I collapse." The teacher beside her just smiled. "My child, a promise isn't pressure to be perfect. It's a candle to remind you of the way. If the wind blows it out, we simply light it again." That moment shifted everything for her. Instead of demanding she erase all anxiety at once, she made one simple promise every day: "I will spend 10 minutes breathing in silence." It was a small promise, but over time, it became her anchor out of crisis. Common misunderstandings. Making promises too big, then feeling crushed. People say, "Tomorrow I'll never worry again." But that kind of extreme promise only sets us up for disappointment. Seeing promises as chains, a promise to yourself is not a prison. It's a compass. It points the way, it doesn't trap you. Comparing with others. Everyone has their own journey. Your promise doesn't need to look like anyone else's. It only needs to be true to your heart. A gentle mantra. You can begin with a simple mantra, repeated each day. I promise to return to my breath. I promise to choose peace over resistance. Whenever anxiety pulls you in, pause for a few seconds, breathe in, breathe out, and whisper this promise. It doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be heard by your own heart. A letter to yourself tonight. Try writing a short letter to yourself, beginning with, I promise you. It could be, I promise to listen to my body when it's tired. I promise not to punish myself too harshly when I make mistakes. I promise to allow myself to rest. Fold the paper. Place it by your bed and let it be a gentle reminder. The seed of healing. A promise to yourself is the seed of healing. It tells you that you are supported, not by the world outside, but by your own heart. In that moment of promise, you're saying, I am worthy of peace. I am worthy of inner freedom. And that recognition itself is already a profound act of healing. If a promise to yourself is the candle that lights the way, the next step is learning to look directly at suffering through the lens of the Buddha's teachings. Because only when we understand the nature of suffering can we begin to nurture true peace. A Buddhist perspective on suffering there. You ever notice that you're not suffering only because of what happened, but because of all the what-ifs spinning in your mind? Have you ever asked yourself, why do I hurt this much? Maybe you've lost a loved one, a relationship, or a job. Maybe you're anxious about an uncertain future, or maybe you're just sitting there, staring at a screen, feeling an emptiness you can't quite name. Suffering is a universal human experience. No one escapes it. But here's the truth. We don't only suffer because of events themselves, we suffer because of how tightly we cling to them. The Four Noble Truths. More than 2,500 years ago, under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha awakened and shared the first teaching. The Four Noble Truths. Dukkha, life involves suffering. Samudaya, the root of suffering is craving and attachment. Nirodha, when craving is released, suffering ends. Magga, the path, the Noble Eightfold Path, leads to peace. The key lies in the second truth. At the root of suffering is attachment. Why attachment? Hurts. Imagine you're gripping a rope. The other end is tied to a moving truck. The tighter you hold, the more your hands burn and bleed. And yet you don't dare let go, convinced that if you release, you'll lose everything. That's how we cling in life. Clinging to someone we love, afraid they'll leave. Clinging to our work, afraid of failure. Clinging to the past, afraid of forgetting. Clinging to the future, afraid of uncertainty. The result? We're dragged along, torn, exhausted, and in pain. The suffering doesn't come from the truck. It comes from our refusal to let go of the rope. A story of grief and release. I once knew a woman who lost her husband in an accident. For years, she lived in torment, asking every day, if only I had kept him home that day. If only I had done something different. The loss itself was devastating, but what drained her even more was clinging to the unchangeable. Only after joining a mindfulness retreat did she begin to release. He is gone, but love remains in me. I can continue living with that love, rather than imprisoning myself in regret. That's when she could finally breathe again. Common misunderstandings. Mistaking letting go for forgetting. Letting go doesn't mean we stop loving or remembering. It means we accept reality so that love can flow in a healthier way. Believing suffering disappears if we control enough. The more we try to control, the deeper the suffering cuts, blaming ourselves for hurting. Suffering is part of being alive. The question isn't how to avoid it forever, but how to walk through it with wisdom. Contemplating impermanence. One practice the Buddha taught for loosening attachment is contemplating impermanence. Start simply. Place a flower before you. Look closely. The thin petals, the color already beginning to fade. Whisper softly, everything changes. And that's natural. This practice reminds us that suffering, like joy, is impermanent. It comes and goes. Our task is to live fully in the moment we're given. 2. Gentle questions for tonight. Before bed, ask yourself, what did I cling to today? If I loosen my grip just a little, how might I feel lighter? You don't have to let go of everything at once. Just ease your hold, like loosening the strap of a heavy backpack, and notice how your breath becomes easier. Seeing suffering as a teacher through the lens of the Four Noble Truths. Suffering isn't the enemy, it's a teacher. It shows us where we're holding too tightly, where we're pushing against impermanence. It invites us to learn the art of release. With practice, suffering slowly becomes a doorway to peace. If attachment is the root of suffering, then the next step on the path of healing is learning how to recognize and set down the emotional burdens of others. Because so often, the pain we carry isn't only our own. Why carrying other people's emotions? Drains you picture this. It's Monday morning. You've just walked into the office, poured yourself a cup of coffee, ready to start the day. But then you notice your coworker sitting nearby, face tense, sighing over and over. Suddenly the whole room feels heavy. You think to yourself, maybe I should do something. I can't just let them feel this way. And before you know it, instead of focusing on your own work, you're carrying their worry, letting your mind swirl around problems that were never yours to hold. By the end of the day, you're completely drained. But strangely enough, your work hasn't moved forward, and your coworker's sadness is still there. The unconscious habit of carrying. In modern life, we often sync our emotions with the people around us, without even realizing it. We see our boss frown, and suddenly we feel anxious. We hear a friend complain, and our chest feels heavy. We notice a family member looking sad, and we can't stay calm inside. Part of us believes, if I worry with them, if I suffer with them, that means I care. But the truth is, when we carry someone else's emotions, we don't make their load lighter, we only make both of us more exhausted. Everyone is the owner of their karma. The Buddha taught, all beings are the owners of their karma, heirs of their karma. This means each of us must learn life's lessons through our own experiences, including through suffering. When we take on someone else's emotions, we're actually interfering with their journey. They need to walk through sadness, fear, or worry in order to grow. We cannot learn their lessons for them. True compassion isn't about carrying someone else's storm. It's about walking beside them with awareness, present, listening, supportive, but with clear boundaries so we don't drown with them. A story of boundaries and compassion. There was once a woman who always brought work home. Not just her work, but her co-workers' problems too. Every time she saw someone stressed, she would jump in and try to fix it, adding more weight to her own shoulders. The result? She was constantly exhausted, sleepless, and even developed stomach pains. During a mindfulness retreat, a teacher told her, "You are not a container for other people's emotions. You only need to be a mirror of peace." From then on, she changed. Instead of absorbing her colleagues' worries, she simply sat with them, offered a cup of tea, and listened with a calm heart. And something beautiful happened. Her peace gave them relief without her having to carry their pain. Common misunderstandings. Confusing compassion with endless sacrifice. Many believe the more they endure for others, the more they love. But love without wisdom becomes attachment, merging with someone else's feelings. We forget their worry is not our essence, thinking we can fix everything. The truth is, some pain can only be transformed by the person experiencing it. A small mindfulness practice. When someone's heavy emotions hit you, pause. Place your hand on your chest, breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly. Whisper to yourself, "This is their emotion, not mine. I can empathize, but I don't need to carry it." This practice helps you stay present without being swept away. A gentle evening reflection tonight. Think back to a moment when you carried someone else's emotions. Write it down. That was the emotion of person's name. I took it on as if it were mine. I choose to return it to them and keep my peace. Just by writing it down, you'll feel lighter because your mind now sees the boundary clearly. Compassion with boundaries. When we stop carrying others' emotions, we learn to respect both their boundaries and our own. We become someone who can listen and be present without burning out. That is real compassion. Love born from understanding, not from attachment. If carrying other people's emotions leaves us drained, the next question is, how do we distinguish true compassion from hidden control? That's the doorway we'll step into next. True compassion versus hidden control. There's a subtle truth many of us overlook. Sometimes what we call love or care is actually driven by fear and the need to control. It's like a beautiful coat on the outside, but underneath it, isn't pure love, it's attachment. When love turns into control, imagine a mother who insists her child study a certain major, marry a certain person, and live exactly as she believes is best. On the surface, she says, "I do this because I love you." But deep inside, it's fear speaking, fear that her child might fail, suffer, or take a path she cannot control. That kind of love becomes a golden cage, shiny, warm, but limiting freedom. Compassion in Buddhism, compassion, metta, and karuna, is not about carrying others' burdens or imposing our will. It is about opening our hearts to accept others as they truly are. Metta, loving kindness, the wish for others to be happy. Karuna, compassion, the ability to feel another's pain without turning it into your own burden. True compassion always comes with wisdom. Love without wisdom becomes attachment, control, and eventually, suffering. A story of love and fear. I once knew a young man who loved his girlfriend so much that he checked her phone every day, asked where she went, who she was with, what she was doing. He said, "I only do this because I care." But that wasn't love. It was insecurity dressed as love. The result? She felt suffocated, robbed of her freedom. What could have been a beautiful love became a heavy burden. Only when he learned that love means allowing the other person to be themselves, not forcing them into his mold, did the relationship begin to truly blossom. Common misunderstandings. Equating control with care. Many believe the tighter they hold, the more they love. Hiding fear beneath love. Fear of loss, fear of change, often disguises itself as concern. Love without wisdom. Without seeing impermanence and cause and effect, love easily turns into chains. The teaching of non-self Buddhism teaches anatta, non-self. No one belongs to anyone. People come into our lives through conditions, and they leave when conditions end. When we realize this, we learn to love with true compassion, love without ownership, love without possession. True compassion says, "I wish you happiness, even if your path is not the same as mine." A small practice, listening without judgment to cultivate true compassion. Try this simple practice. When a loved one shares their pain, just listen fully. Resist the urge to give advice, to fix, or to command. Simply be present, nod, and say, "I understand, I'm here with you." This non-controlling presence is the greatest gift. A daily reflection today. Choose one person you love and ask yourself, am I truly loving them, or am I trying to control them? If you find even a little control, try loosening your grip with a gentle reminder, "I trust you to walk your own path." You'll notice that love feels lighter, but also deeper. When we can distinguish between true compassion and disguised control, we free both ourselves and others. They get to live freely, and we are no longer exhausted from holding what was never ours. That is healing love, the kind of love that helps both people grow. If true compassion means loving with wisdom, then the next step is remembering this truth. Each person is the owner of their own karma, and only by understanding karma can we see clearly what we can do and what we must leave for others to experience. Each person is the owner of their karma. Have you ever been in this situation? You see a loved one suffering, and you wish you could carry it for them. You see your child fall, and you wish you could take the pain instead. You see your friend lost, and you want to drag them back by any means. That's the instinct of love. But sooner or later, you realize, no matter how much you try, they still must walk their own road, endure their own pain, and learn their own lessons. And in that moment, you feel helpless. Buddhism calls this karma and reminds us of a truth. All beings are the owners of their karma, the heirs of their karma, born of their karma, related to their karma, and governed by their karma. What is karma? Karma is not punishment from some outside power. In Buddhism, karma simply means intentional action, our words, thoughts, and deeds. Every action we plant is like a seed. It may sprout immediately or years later, but no matter what, the one who plants it is the one who harvests it. This means we cannot live for, learn for, or suffer for anyone else. A parent's illusion of protection. You may have seen parents so worried for their children that they do everything for them, choosing schools, careers, even partners. They believe they're protecting their kids, but when those kids face real hardship, the parents realize the child must walk through it to grow. A boy whose mother always cleaned up his mistakes never got the chance to stumble. When he finally faced the world, even the smallest failure crushed him. Why? Because no one can carry the karma of growth for him. Cause and condition. The Buddha taught, as the seed, so the fruit. You cannot plant an orange seed and harvest a mango. Each of us has our own journey, woven from countless causes and conditions. Parents, friends, society, they all play a role. But the primary cause, our choices, our actions, our mindset, belongs to us alone. When we understand this, we stop blaming ourselves for not being able to save others. Instead, we learn to walk beside them, offering compassion and wisdom so that they can plant their own good seeds. Common pitfalls. Trying to change someone else's karma. We believe we can fix their life, but the truth is, everyone must walk their own path. Blaming ourselves for their suffering. Many think it's my fault they're in pain, but no, that's their karma, their lesson. Confusing compassion with rescue. Compassion means walking with them. Rescue is the illusion that I can live life for you. A story of letting go. A friend of mine had a younger brother who struggled with alcoholism. He tried everything: advice, money for rehab, endless support. But time after time, his brother returned to drinking. My friend tortured himself. Maybe I don't love him enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Then one day, at a Dharma talk, the teacher said, "You can plant the seed, but you cannot force it to sprout. It needs the right conditions and the right time." That teaching freed him. He still loved his brother, still stayed present, but stopped believing he could change his brother's karma. And strangely enough, that calm support gave his brother the motivation to finally change himself. A gentle exercise. Next time you see someone suffering, ask yourself, is this their karma to work through? What is truly my role here? Maybe your role is simply to listen, or to hold their hand in silence, or to pray for them, but it is not to carry their burden, nor to decide their choices for them. Try writing it down in 2 columns. Column A, things I can do, listening, offering advice, taking care of myself, so I can be a steady support. Column B, things I cannot do for them, change their thoughts, make decisions for them, suffer in their place. Just seeing the difference brings relief, because your heart finally recognizes the boundary. Loving with wisdom. When we understand that each person owns their karma, we free ourselves from the burden of saving them. We begin to love with wisdom, walking alongside them without attachment, offering compassion without exhaustion. And that is real healing, for both them and us. If we understand that everyone is the owner of their own karma, then we also understand the importance of boundaries in love. And that is the next step, learning how to set healthy boundaries as an expression of true care. Boundaries are real love, not selfishness. Have you ever been in this situation? A friend keeps texting you their complaints, calling you late at night just to vent. You care about them, so you listen, comfort, encourage. But over time, you start feeling drained. You're working, caring for your family, and on top of that, you're carrying their heavy emotions. Eventually, you have nothing left for yourself. Then, The moment you try to say, "I need a break," or "I can't talk right now," guilt rises inside you. You're afraid they'll think you're cold. You fear losing the friendship. You ask yourself, am I selfish for setting boundaries? The common mistake, equating boundaries with selfishness. So many people believe that boundaries mean turning your back, refusing love, or hurting others. But the truth is the opposite. Without boundaries, love slowly becomes a burden. A river without banks overflows and destroys everything in its path. Love is the same. It needs limits to flow in the right direction, to nourish without harming. Compassion. With wisdom in Buddhism, compassion, karuna, cannot exist without wisdom, prajna. Compassion without wisdom becomes attachment, blind sacrifice, and in the end, both people suffer. The Buddha taught, if you are not at peace within yourself, how can you bring peace to others? This means, to love someone, you must first care for yourself, and boundaries are one form of that self-care. A nurse's story. I once met a nurse. She was used to caring for patients, so at home she also cared for everyone, her husband, children, and friends. Whenever anyone asked for help, she couldn't say no. Gradually, she burned out, grew irritable, and eventually, her family suffered the weight of her exhaustion. One day, during a mindfulness retreat, she heard this teaching. Saying no can also be an act of compassion. From then on, she changed. She began setting boundaries, only taking on what she could handle, only listening when she had the energy. She realized that when she was healthy and peaceful, her love became nourishing, not draining. Healthy boundaries versus selfishness. Selfishness. Thinking only of yourself, ignoring others' feelings. Healthy boundaries. Respecting both yourself and others. It says, I want to walk with you, but I cannot carry your burden for you. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates. They tell us when to open and when to close, so we can keep balance. A visualization. Imagine yourself standing inside a circle of light. This circle is your peaceful space. When someone comes, you can open the circle and welcome them in. But when you feel yourself being swept away, you can gently close it, saying, I need time for myself. This practice reminds you that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's love, a compassionate no today. If someone asks you for something beyond your capacity, try answering with sincerity. I really want to help, but right now, I don't have enough energy to do it well. When I'm ready, I'll be here for you. You'll see that a boundary spoken with compassion doesn't diminish love. It purifies it. When we learn to set boundaries, we learn to love in a way that lasts. Because we're no longer giving from exhaustion. We're giving from a heart full of energy. That is love that nourishes, not love that destroys. If boundaries are real love, then the next step is learning how to be fully present. Because true love isn't about carrying or controlling, it's about showing up wholeheartedly for each other. Presence instead of carrying. Have you ever experienced this? A close friend sits across from you, eyes red with tears, sharing their struggles. Your heart aches. You want to do something, anything to make the pain vanish. So instead of simply listening, you rush to solve, to advise, even to carry their pain into your own chest. And yet, in the end, you're exhausted, and your friend, often still hurting. You wonder, where did I go wrong? Why does trying harder only make both of us heavier? The answer lies in the difference between being present and carrying. What is presence? Presence means being fully here, in this moment, without judgment, without interrupting, without forcing emotions to change. When someone is in pain, what they need most is not someone to erase their suffering. They need someone who can sit beside them, breathe with them, and listen with a steady heart. Why carrying drains you? When we carry someone else's emotions, we merge their pain with our own. We get pulled into their storm, losing the stability we need to actually help. In Buddhism, this is called ignorance within compassion, love without wisdom. True compassion is not suffering in your place. It's offering a safe space for someone to walk through their pain themselves. A mother's shift. There was a young woman who poured all her troubles onto her mother. Failed relationships, work stress, heartbreak. The mother loved her so much that she cried with her, worried with her, even lost sleep with her. But eventually, the mother burned out. Her daughter, meanwhile, was still stuck. Only when the mother changed, no longer carrying but simply sitting beside her, holding her hand, breathing with her, did something shift. The daughter said, "Mom, you don't have to say anything. Just sitting here with me makes me feel lighter." That is the power of presence. Mindful compassion. The Buddha taught, one who keeps their own mind peaceful is the one who can bring peace to others. Presence in mindfulness means holding awareness in yourself through your breath, through your grounded body. That calm energy naturally radiates, becoming a source of healing for those around you. When we are present, we don't hand out ready-made answers. We offer listening, and often, that is exactly what the other person needs most. Common missteps. Believing we must say the perfect thing. In truth, silent listening can be stronger than 1,000 words. Thinking we must fix it to prove our love. But love does not mean solving for someone else. Sitting beside them in body, but letting our mind wander elsewhere. True presence means being fully here, not just physically, but with heart and mind, a small practice. Next time a loved one comes to you in pain, try this. Sit beside them. Not too close, not too far, just comfortably. Breathe with them. Slow inhales, slow exhales, letting your breath become a rhythm of peace. Don't absorb their feelings. When they cry, listen with compassion, but keep your inner balance through your breath. Whisper silently, "This is their feeling, not mine. I can empathize without carrying it." This protects your energy while giving them the safe space they need to heal. A 10-minute gift tonight. Choose one simple moment with someone you love. Maybe just 10 minutes. Put down your phone, turn off the TV, and sit with them. You don't need to say much. Just smile, breathe, and listen. You may be surprised. Sometimes what people need most isn't an answer, but someone who knows how to be fully present. When we learn to be present instead of carrying, we finally learn how to love in a healthy way. We no longer burn out. We become a refuge of calm, and the other person in that presence has the chance to return to themselves, face their pain, and begin to heal. That is love that is both compassionate and wise. If presence is the greatest gift we can give, the next question is, how do we use the breath as our anchor in every situation? Because the breath is the first doorway to peace. The breath as an anchor. A simple guide. Have you ever walked along a river and seen a small boat drifting in the current? Without an anchor, it's easily carried away by the waves. But drop a small anchor to the riverbed, and the boat can stay steady, no matter how strong the flow. Our minds are the same. In modern life, we're constantly swept up by work, social media, worries, memories, and plans. Without an anchor, the mind drifts aimlessly. The simplest anchor available to each of us is the breath. The familiar thing. We forget. Strangely, the breath is always here, sustaining us every second, yet we rarely pay attention to it. Under stress, we hold our breath or breathe in quick, shallow bursts. With anxiety, the breath becomes short and thin. The heart races. In calm, the breath is long even, and natural. Just noticing the breath tells us the state of our mind, and through the breath, we can return to the present. Mindfulness. Through the breath, in the Anapanasati Sutta, mindfulness of breathing, the Buddha taught a practice both simple and profound. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know I am breathing out. Simple as it sounds, this is the doorway to mindfulness. When we rest attention on the breath, the mind stops running to the past or fearing the future. Leaning on the breath, we find steadiness, like a boat finding its anchor. The breath is the bridge between body and mind, bringing us back to the only place peace exists. This moment. A small story. A man who was constantly stressed by work noticed his heart racing and breath tightening every time his boss called. At a mindfulness retreat, he learned to pause, place a hand on his belly, and take 3 slow, deep breaths. He tried it and was surprised. After 3 breaths, his heart slowed and his mind cleared. He said, "I realize the breath doesn't change my workload, but it changes how I face it." That's the power of breathing. It doesn't erase the waves, but it helps you stand steady in them. Common mistakes. Breathing is automatic. Practice is unnecessary. How we breathe profoundly shapes our mental state. Over-controlling the breath. Practice isn't forcing, it's watching and gently guiding. Mindful breathing takes too long. Even 1 or 2 minutes can reset your energy for the whole day. Try this. 3 breaths to come. Home whenever you feel unsettled. Pause. Put down the task or phone for 1 minute. Hand on belly. Feel the rise and fall. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly 3 times. Silently say, breathing in, I know I'm alive. Breathing out, I release this tension. You'll notice 3 breaths are often enough to touch stillness. 5-minute night practice before bed. Sit quietly for 5 minutes and simply watch your breath. If the mind wanders, kindly bring it back with, "This is my breath." Treat the breath as a loyal friend, always there, patient and steady, just waiting for you to return. When we practice returning to the breath, we learn to anchor ourselves in a drifting world. We no longer feel swept away, we have a place to stand, and we realize peace isn't in controlling the outside world, it's in returning inward. If the breath is the anchor, the next question is, how do we tell what truly belongs to us and what we're unconsciously carrying for others? The question, is this mine? A mindfulness practice. Have you had this happen? After a long day, you walk through the door and hear a family member sigh, "I'm so tired, so fed up." Your heart drops. The positive energy you gathered all day evaporates, replaced by a heaviness you can't explain. Or at the office, a coworker is tense and worried, and suddenly you feel jittery, even though nothing has changed in your own workload. Here's what we often miss. Many emotions we feel aren't actually ours. The guiding question. In mindfulness practice, there's a simple question that helps us tell what's truly ours from what we're holding for others. Is this mine? This question is like a lamp, illuminating each feeling as it passes through. It doesn't deny or suppress, it simply recognizes, what belongs to me, I'll care for. What does not, I can set down. Non-self and dependent origination. According to the teaching of non-self, Anatta, emotions are not me, mine, or myself. They arise when causes and conditions come together. Environment, circumstances, other people, memories, and more. When we ask, is this mine? We're seeing through the lens of dependent origination. Some sadness is ours, born from our own karma and memories. But some worry is simply absorbed from others, like a sponge taking in water, forgetting that we can choose not to soak it up. A small story, a woman often came home exhausted, even though her job was stable and manageable. Over time she noticed, her mother always complained about her health, and her father worried constantly about finances. Out of love, she unconsciously absorbed their anxiety. She was living inside other people's stress. Only when she practiced asking, is this mine? Did things shift? Instead of absorbing, she chose to sit with her parents, breathe slowly, and listen with compassion. while keeping her inner calm. Common confusions. Mistaking empathy for carrying. Empathy means understanding and being present. Carrying means taking on their feelings as your own. Feeling selfish for not carrying. In truth, your steadiness is what truly supports others. Assuming every emotion that appears must be mine. Many feelings are just house guests. You don't have to make them the owner. 3-step check next time a sudden heaviness lands in you. Pause. Hand to heart. Take one slow breath. Ask, is this mine? 3, if the answer is no, smile softly and say, I recognize this, and I don't need to carry it. It's like walking into a crowded room. Instead of picking up every item, you choose only what belongs to you. A night reflection before sleep. Recall one heavy emotion from the day and write down, is this mine? If yes, breathe, smile, and tell it, I will take care of you. If no, fold the paper, set it aside, and say, I return this to life, to the one who created it. Notice how your heart lightens, as if you just took a stone out of your backpack. This question is a simple yet deep medicine. It reminds us we don't have to hold every storm in the world. We have the right to protect our peace. Practiced often, we become like a steady riverbank, ready to receive the rain, but not broken by it. If, is this mine, helps us set down what isn't ours. The next step is learning to spot the old habits that keep us stuck, because sometimes it isn't others' emotions at all, but our own patterns that become the biggest chains. Breaking old habits. Guilt as the echo of conditioning. Have you ever felt this? One day you decide to change. You want to live healthier. You want to stop a habit that has brought you pain, maybe staying up too late, constantly comparing yourself to others, or carrying other people's emotions. But the moment you take a new step, a voice rises inside. You're selfish. You're abandoning them. You'll fail. Don't even try. That voice is guilt. And guilt isn't the truth. It's just the echo of old conditioning. Old habits. As invisible chains, humans are creatures of habit. We walk the same roads, think the same thoughts, and react with the same emotions over and over. So when we try to change, like setting boundaries in a relationship, the old habit pulls us back. You can't do that. They'll be upset. It's like a rubber band. You stretch forward, it snaps you back. Guilt is that snap, not because you're wrong, but because your mind is used to the old path. The Buddhist teaching on habit energy, in Buddhism, this is called habit energy, vasana. It's like seeds planted long ago that sprout automatically, even when we know they don't bring happiness. Someone complains, and you immediately absorb their feelings, because since childhood, you were taught to keep everyone happy. You fail at something, and instantly you blame yourself, because your habit energy is self-criticism. Habit energy is a form of karma, the imprints from the past, but the Buddha taught, karma is not fixed. With mindfulness, we can transform it instead of being trapped by it. A friend's story. I knew a woman raised in a family that always told her, you must sacrifice. You must take care of others first. She grew up to be the rescuer in every relationship. One day, she learned about boundaries. She began saying no when she was overwhelmed. But immediately, guilt rose in her heart. Am I selfish? Am I letting everyone down? Only after many times practicing mindfulness did she realize the guilt wasn't truth. It was just the echo of old conditioning, the beliefs planted in her since childhood. Recognizing this, she slowly let go, learning to love herself as tenderly as she loved others. Common pitfalls. Mistaking guilt for truth. In reality, it's just habit pulling you back. Fighting habits with hatred. The more you fight, the stronger they resist. Only mindful recognition weakens them. confusing responsibility with bondage. Responsibility gives life meaning. Bondage steals freedom. Recognizing the echo. Next time guilt rises, try this. Pause. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Name it. Hello, echo of old habit. 3. Smile. See it for what it is, not reality, just a replay, like hearing an old song on the radio. You know it's just a recording, not the present moment's truth. A small practice tonight. Write down one habit you want to change. Beneath it, write, if guilt arises, it's only the echo of old conditioning. I don't have to believe it. Place this note somewhere you'll see often, on your desk, in your journal, or beside your bed. So the next time guilt shows up, you'll remember, this is just an echo, not the truth. When we see guilt as an echo, we stop attacking ourselves and start treating ourselves with kindness. Instead of seeing it as an enemy, we treat it as a sign. I'm stepping off the old path now. And that is proof we're growing. Proof we're walking toward freedom. If breaking old habits frees us from the echoes of the past, the next step is learning to nurture new habits, planting seeds of peace and happiness. The muscle of letting go. Have you ever tried going to the gym? On the first day, lifting even a small weight makes your arms shake and your whole body ache. You think, this isn't for me, I should quit. But if you keep going, adding a little more each day, your muscles grow. One day, you lift what once seemed impossible. Letting go is just like that. It's not an inborn skill. It's a muscle of the heart, one we must train daily. Through small, ordinary moments, we build the strength to face life's bigger losses. Letting go is a process. Many people think letting go happens in one dramatic instant, like flipping a switch. But in truth, it's a practice, a habit to be cultivated. Today, you let go of one hurtful comment. Tomorrow, you let go of one unfulfilled expectation. Little by little, you gain the strength to release heavier weights. A broken relationship, the passing of a loved one, a dream that couldn't come true. Each time you let go, your heart muscle grows stronger. Training, habit energy. In Buddhism, repeated patterns are called habit energy. If we're used to clinging, that habit grows stronger, like a muscle we keep flexing. The good news, mindfulness can retrain us. Each time you notice and release, you're planting a new seed. Instead of training the muscle of grasping, you're training the muscle of release. One day, when a storm hits, letting go will arise naturally, helping you stand steady. A story of practice. I once met a man with a quick temper. Every time someone contradicted him, he snapped back and later felt guilty. At a meditation retreat, his teacher told him, "Start small. Don't try to let go of the big storms yet. First, let go of the little irritations, a sharp look, a complaint." So he practiced. Each time he paused, breathed and smiled. At first it was hard, like lifting a weight too heavy, but little by little, he felt lighter. One day, faced with real injustice at work, he stayed calm, responding wisely instead of exploding. He said, "I realized letting go is like going to the gym. Train a little every day. Common pitfalls. Wanting to let go instantly, like expecting strong muscles after one workout. It only creates more pressure. Confusing letting go with avoidance. Avoidance is denial. Letting go means facing it, then gently releasing. Comparing your progress. Just as every body is different, so is every heart. Letting go isn't a competition, only a practice with yourself. A daily workout. Try this small exercise, like a basic gym routine. Recall one thing today that irritated you. A comment, a delay, a look. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, exhale slowly. Whisper, "I choose to let this go." Don't force forgetting. Just set it down, like placing a weight gently on the floor. Tomorrow, pick up another weight, a worry, an expectation, and practice letting go again. Each release builds your heart's strength. A night reflection. Before sleep, write down, what did I set down today? Where in my body and mind do I feel lighter? Even one small release each day trains the muscle of letting go. Letting go doesn't mean loss. It means strength. Just like gym goers don't lose by putting the weight down, they grow stronger through it. When we train the muscle of release, we're no longer dragged by the past or haunted by the future. We become free, peaceful, lighter with ourselves and with others. If the muscle of letting go is strengthened through daily practice, the next step is to nurture new energies, filling the space we've cleared with wholesome seeds of peace and joy. The mistake: thinking care means endless sacrifice. Have you ever found yourself here? A friend asks for help, and you drop your own work to do it for them. A loved one feels sad, and you give up your sleep to listen. You pour everything into others until you're exhausted. And then, when you finally want to rest, a voice whispers inside, if you really loved them, you'd sacrifice more. If you stop, you're selfish. This is a common mistake, equating care with endless sacrifice. Love or burden. We're often taught to love is to give, and that's true, but misunderstood. Giving can turn into self-erasure. A single candle can light many others, but if it burns itself out completely, there is no light left to share. Real care is not burning yourself away. It's tending your own flame so it shines brightly and steadily, long enough to light the way for both you and those you love. Compassion needs wisdom in Buddhism. Compassion, metta, karuna, must walk hand in hand with wisdom, prajna. Compassion without wisdom turns into attachment, doing for, carrying for. Wisdom without compassion turns cold, detached. Compassion with wisdom becomes healing love. The Buddha taught, if you are not at peace within yourself, how can you bring peace to others? This means care is inseparable from self-care. Endless sacrifice isn't compassion, it's ignorance disguised as love. A young mother's story. A young mother told me she tried to do everything for her child, staying up late making crafts, waking up early to cook, working all day while managing every detail of the household. She thought this was love, but over time, she grew tired, irritable, even angry at the very child she adored. Only after attending a retreat did she hear these words: taking care of yourself is the greatest gift to those you love. She began sleeping enough, practicing mindful breathing for a few minutes each morning. To her surprise, she became calmer, more patient. Her love grew gentler and more genuine. Common pitfalls. Believing sacrifice proves love. In reality, love isn't measured by exhaustion. Fearing people will call you selfish if you say no. In truth, boundaries are wisdom in action. Thinking care means doing or carrying for others. Real care empowers others to stand on their own. The water glass metaphor imagine. You are a glass of water. If the glass is empty, you can't pour into anyone else. If the glass is full, water flows naturally. Each day ask yourself, is my glass full today? If not, how can I refill it before I pour out again? It might be as simple as 5 quiet breaths, a hot cup of tea, or enough sleep, a small practice tonight before bed. Write down 3 things I did for others today. 1 small thing I will do for myself tomorrow. It could be going to bed 15 minutes earlier, a 10-minute walk outside, or reading 1 page of a favorite book. When you learn to care for yourself, the love you give becomes clearer, stronger, and more sustainable. Care is not endless sacrifice. In truth, caring for yourself is the foundation of caring for others in a healthy way. When you know how to pause and protect your energy, love stops being a burden and becomes true comfort. And then, both you and those you love begin to heal. If care does not mean endless sacrifice, the next question is, how do we keep balance in love? caring for others while staying peaceful within ourselves. When love turns into control, have you heard this saying? Every parent loves their child, but too much love can become a cage. In many families, love is meant to be a source of strength, but sometimes it transforms into invisible chains. Parents fear their child will get lost, so they control every step. They fear failure, so they dictate the future. They fear suffering, so they prevent every mistake. All of it comes from love, but love without wisdom easily turns into control. When love warps pure, love simply wishes for another's happiness. But when love mixes with fear, it becomes control. Fear of failure, pushing children into a career path. Fear of heartbreak, forbidding them from loving someone. Fear of suffering, shielding them from trial and error. And so, love meant to nurture instead becomes a burden, making the loved one feel suffocated. Non-self and compassion with wisdom Buddhism teaches, no one belongs to anyone. We meet each other as conditions come together along the river of impermanence. This doesn't mean parents shouldn't love their children. It means children aren't copies of their parents. They are beings with their own karma, their own path. True compassion isn't "I control you to protect you." It's offering freedom within love. Parents who understand their children must learn their own lessons, allow love to become nourishment instead of chains. A boy who loved to paint, I knew a boy who loved painting. But his parents, afraid art wouldn't provide a living, forced him to study economics. They told him, "We do this because we love you." The boy obeyed, but inside he was restless. After a few years, he sank into depression, living a life that wasn't his. Only when his parents finally sat down to listen and recognized his suffering did they loosen control. When he was allowed to pursue art, not only did his joy return, but family bonds grew closer. The lesson: control doesn't protect loved ones from suffering. It only adds more suffering. Common missteps: mistaking love for possession. Many parents unconsciously believe, "You must live as I want, or I don't love you." Letting fear guide love. When love grows from fear, it mutates into control. Believing control prevents suffering. But suffering is a natural teacher. Everyone must pass through it, from control to companionship. Next time you feel the urge to decide for someone you love, your child, partner or friend, try this. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Recognize the fear inside. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or out of fear? 3. If it's fear, let go. Instead of imposing, sit down and ask, what do you want? How can I walk with you? This small shift turns love from controlling to nourishing. A healing statement tonight. Try writing a sentence to someone you love. Not, "I want you to do this," but "I trust you are strong enough to walk your own path, and I'll be here if you need me." This gives freedom while keeping presence. It is love with wisdom. When we stop controlling in the name of love, we learn to love more purely, not to make someone into our reflection, but to allow them to become themselves. And that freedom is the greatest gift of healing. If love without wisdom becomes control, then the next step is learning how to love without attachment, so that love becomes liberation, not bondage. Healing love, not binding love. Have you ever stood beneath a great tree, noticing how its roots sink deep into the earth while its branches sway softly with the wind? The roots keep the tree upright, unshaken by storms, but the flexible branches are what let it move with wind and rain. If they're too stiff, they snap. If the roots are weak, the tree topples. Healthy love is the same. Strong roots to support, soft branches that don't bind. When love becomes a chain, many people believe loving means holding tight, keeping the other person on the path we choose, binding them so they won't leave. But that kind of love becomes a chain. The other person feels suffocated. We feel anxious, always afraid of change. Love is not possession. True love gives each other the freedom to grow. Compassion and non-self. In Love Buddhism, teaches that love must be paired with compassion and wisdom. Compassion, wishing the other person happiness, even if their path differs from ours. Non-self, recognizing the other is not our property, but a being with their own karma and lessons. When we love with compassion and non-self, we become the root, steady trust and inner groundedness, and also the branch, flexible, respectful of the other's freedom. A short story. A young husband loved his wife dearly, but out of fear of losing her, he tried to control everything. Where she went, who she met, what she did. "I'm only worried about you," he said. Over time, she felt caged. She loved him, but the love had turned into a prison. One day he heard this: "If you love a flower, don't pick it. Let it bloom in the sun. That is its true happiness." He began to change. Less control, more trust. And when he loosened his grip, their love softened and began to heal. Common misunderstandings. Confusing care with control. Care listens and walks alongside. Control forces the other into our mold, fearing that freedom means loss. In truth, freedom lets love grow for the long term. Believing more binding proves more love. The more the binding, the more fragile the love becomes. Roots and branches in love. Next time you're with someone you love, imagine roots, your inner steadiness, your capacity to stay calm and not be shaken by fear. Branches, your softness, giving them space to choose, to live, to experience. Silently affirm, "I choose to be steady roots, so I can give the one I love soft wings." A healing sentence tonight. Write to the one you love. "I want you to be free to do what you believe is right for you. I'll be here like roots, so you can always come home." This heals them and you. It reminds us that real love supports. It doesn't imprison. When love has steady roots and soft branches, it becomes healing. The other is free to be themselves, and we are no longer afraid of loss because we see love is presence, not possession. It's a nurturing love, a love where both people grow. If love can heal when it doesn't bind, the next step is transforming the fear of loss, because that fear is often the root that makes us cling. That's what we'll explore next. The Dharma of emotional freedom. Everyone has a private inner space. Have you ever felt uneasy when a loved one goes quiet? You worry. What are they thinking? Are they mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Then you probe, try to make them laugh, or even take on their feelings yourself. The truth is, everyone has a private inner space, a quiet room within that no one else can enter for them. Emotional freedom. What we often forget, it's beautiful to share, empathize, and support. But we often forget, others own their emotions. They have the right to be sad without explaining. They have the right to be silent without making you feel better immediately. They have the right to walk through pain in their own way. When we step into someone's inner room, even with good intentions, we can unintentionally take away their emotional freedom. Non-self and respecting one's karma. Buddhism teaches beings are the owners of their karma. Emotions, too, arise and pass like clouds across each person's sky. Others have their own sky. We can stand beside them, but we can't chase away their clouds. Each person has their karma, their lessons, and their timing. Respecting another's emotional freedom is compassion with wisdom, loving without possession, accompanying without control. An everyday example, a wife once told me her husband often came home and fell quiet. She worried he didn't love her anymore, or that she'd done something wrong, so she pressed him to talk right away. One day, she tried something different. Instead of pushing, she sat beside him, poured tea, and gave him space. After a while, he spoke on his own. "Work was heavy today. I just needed a little quiet." She realized, when she honored his emotional freedom, he opened up. When she tried to control it, he closed down. Common missteps. Believing love means knowing every feeling the other has. Love also means honoring inner boundaries. Panicking at silence. Sometimes silence is precisely how healing begins. Trying to fix someone's feelings. Emotions aren't errors to correct. They're currents to move through. The no-pressure chair. Next time a loved one is hurting, try this. Invite them to sit with you. Sit nearby. No probing questions. No instant advice. Be present. Breathe slowly. Let your calm radiate. Imagine you are a no-pressure chair, a place they can rest without being pushed to change their feelings right away. A simple text for tonight. Send this to a friend or loved one. I'm here if you want to share, and I also respect it if you need space. This keeps the door open to connection while granting emotional freedom. When we honor emotional freedom, we free both sides. They feel safe because they aren't being controlled. We feel lighter because we're not carrying what isn't ours. From that ease, a clearer, steadier, more healing love can grow. If the Dharma of emotional freedom teaches us to respect others' inner space, the next step is learning to steward our own emotions, because no one else can live our life for us. The mistake. Believing others can't survive without you. Have you ever felt this way? A close friend is struggling and you worry so much you convince yourself, if I'm not here, they'll fall apart. Or maybe in love, you feel you must be there every second, carrying all their pain, because deep down you believe they can't live without you. It sounds noble, but in truth, that thought is born from fear and attachment, not from wise love. When love becomes a burden, love is meant to be a gift, but when it comes with the belief they can't survive without me, it easily turns into a burden for both sides. The one being rescued may feel stripped of freedom, seen as weak. The rescuer becomes exhausted, always carrying, always afraid that if they let go, everything will collapse. This is no longer love. It's control disguised as care. Everyone has their own karma and path. The Buddha taught, all beings are owners of their karma. Each person has their own journey, their own lessons, and their own consequences to live through. When we believe someone can't survive without us, we deny their inner strength. We interfere with the natural unfolding of their karma. True compassion is not carrying their life for them. It's trusting they also carry Buddha nature, the inner strength to rise, learn, and grow. A story. I once knew a woman who constantly worried about her younger brother, an alcoholic. She poured all her time and money into saving him until she was completely drained. She thought, if I'm not here, his life will be ruined. But the more she carried him, the less he tried to change. Only later did she realize she couldn't live his life for him, couldn't drink the bitter cups of his journey in his place. When she stopped carrying everything and simply stayed present with love, listening, encouraging, he slowly began to find his own motivation to change. Common mistakes. Confusing love with rescue. Love is walking alongside. Rescue is the illusion. I'm the only one who can save you. Making yourself the center. Believing someone can't live without you unintentionally turns love into pride. Turning another's suffering into your duty, that only drains both sides. No one truly heals. Empowering instead of rescuing. Next time you see someone in pain, try this. Recognize your own fear, breathe deeply, and affirm they have their own strength. Ask instead of deciding, what do you need right now? How can I walk with you? 3. Trust their process. Know they must still take each step with their own feet. A simple reflection tonight. Choose one person you've been worrying about. Write 2 lists. What I can truly do to support. What I must release, because it's their path to walk. Just this clarity will lighten your heart and purify your love. When we release the belief, they can't survive without me, we offer them the greatest gift, respect and trust. That faith awakens their inner strength. And for us, it ends the exhaustion of trying to carry the world. Love then becomes nourishing energy for both sides. If the mistake is thinking others can't live without us, the next step is to recognize where real strength lies, not outside, but in the inner path each of us must walk. I trust your path. We've all felt it. Watching someone we love walk into a difficult path. Fear rises in our chest. Will they be strong enough? Will they stumble? In that moment, we often swing between two extremes, rushing to control or rushing to carry their burden. Both steal away their inner strength and both drain us. There's another way, simple but powerful. Instead of controlling or rescuing, silently repeat this mantra. I trust your path. Why trust? Heals. When we trust, we send a powerful message that they are not as weak as they think, that they have the wisdom and strength to learn from their own experience, that we are here not to walk for them, but to walk beside them. This trust is like sunlight. It doesn't pull the plant out of the soil. It simply shines, and the plant grows upward on its own. Karma and Buddha nature Buddhism teaches that every person carries Buddha nature, the seed of awakening, the power to face and transcend suffering. To trust another's path is to trust that karma will teach them what they need, and that Buddha nature within will guide them through storms. This doesn't mean abandoning them. It means being compassionately present without stealing their chance to grow. A story. A young woman wanted to quit her stable job to pursue art. Her parents were terrified, sure she would fail. They tried to hold her back, thinking it was love. But one day, her father sat down and said, I worry for you, but I trust your path. Go, and if you stumble, remember you can always come home. That one sentence gave her wings. She felt both free and supported. Trust became the wind beneath her journey. Common missteps. Mistaking trust for indifference. Trust doesn't mean ignoring. It means granting freedom with love. Proving love with control. Control only shows we don't yet trust. Fearing trust will make them fall. But falling is often the very lesson they need. Practicing the mantra. Whenever you feel anxious for someone you love, try 1. Take a deep breath. Whisper silently, I trust your path. If it feels right, say it directly, with sincerity, not just words. This practice reminds you to release control and gives them the gift of faith. A healing sentence for today. Think of someone you're worried about. Instead of endless advice or control, try saying, I believe you're strong enough to walk your path. I'll be here if you need me. Instantly the space shifts. They feel respected, empowered, and less alone. Trust has a quiet, miraculous healing power. When we trust the path of others, we free ourselves from the burden of saving, and we give them the greatest gift, freedom and inner strength. Both sides feel lighter, and love flows again, not as a chain, but as a river that nourishes. If I trust your path helps us release control over others, the next step is to learn to trust our own path, so when storms come, we too can stand strong. Meditation is not escapism. Clearing the misunderstanding. Have you ever heard someone say, meditation is just a way to avoid reality, sitting still so you don't have to face your problems? Many people think meditation means shutting the door, cutting off from the world, running away from life. But the truth is the exact opposite. Meditation is not escape. It's the courage to face life with awareness. The common misunderstanding. Meditation. Avoidance. In today's busy world, meditation often gets labeled as a kind of sedative to forget stress, to dodge anxiety. Some even ask, what's the point of sitting still when the pain and problems are still there? But meditation isn't about forgetting or denying. It's about seeing clearly, facing reality with calm eyes, without being swept away. Mindfulness means facing, not avoiding. The Buddha taught about sati, mindfulness, the ability to be fully present with whatever is happening. When sadness arises, we know I'm sad. When worry arises, we know I'm worried. When breathing, we know I'm breathing. Mindfulness is not running away. It's the deepest kind of facing. Instead of fleeing from pain, we sit with it, recognize it, and even smile to it. Like holding a crying child, not pushing it away but embracing it. A story: a man lost his job. He sank into despair and tried to escape with alcohol and endless TV. But the more he ran, the heavier the fear became. One day, at a friend's suggestion, he tried meditation. At first, his mind screamed, "I can't take this." But slowly, he focused on the breath, allowing the pain to show itself without resistance. After a few weeks, he said, "I'm still unemployed, but I'm no longer terrified. I can see my pain clearly." And from that, I found a new direction. Meditation didn't erase his hardship. It gave him the calm strength to face it. Common mistakes when approaching meditation. Thinking meditation means disconnecting from life. In truth, meditation helps us live more deeply in each moment. Trying to push out thoughts. Meditation is not about a blank mind. It's about recognizing the flow of thoughts. Only meditating in crisis. Meditation is a daily nourishment, not an emergency escape. A simple practice. Next time you feel sad or anxious, try this. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Place your hand on your chest. Inhale, exhale slowly. Whisper, "Hello sadness, I see you." No pushing away, no analyzing. Just sit with it, like a friend. Notice how the emotion softens, like a child who stops crying when embraced. Evening. Reflection tonight. Instead of scrolling your phone, spend 10 minutes sitting quietly with your breath. If thoughts come, don't chase them away. Just notice. You'll feel your mind begin to settle, not because you're escaping life, but because you're strengthening your mind to meet life with calm. Meditation is not running away. It's the bravest act, daring to look into yourself. And when you shine mindfulness on pain, pain no longer controls you. You become the master of your mind, steady in storms, grounded in change. If meditation is the art of facing, then the next step is bringing that mindfulness into everyday life. Not only when sitting, but when walking, working, resting, so peace becomes a constant companion. Samatha, the mind as a still lake. Have you ever sat by a lake at dawn? When the water is perfectly still, you can see the sky, the clouds, even the trees reflected with clarity. But toss in a pebble, or let a breeze ripple across, and the reflection warps instantly. Our mind is just like that lake. When calm, it reflects reality clearly. But when stirred by anxiety, anger, or craving, perception distorts, and we can't see truth. In Buddhism, there is a practice called samatha, calm abiding. It's the art of returning the mind to stillness, like a lake without ripples. Why samatha matters in modern life? The mind often feels like a storm-tossed lake, waves whipped up by work, news, social media, endless demands. Without stillness, we never truly see ourselves. Samatha helps us quiet the waves of the mind, strengthen concentration, open the doorway to wisdom, because only when the lake is still does the sky appear clearly. Calm leads to insight. The Buddha said, "Without concentration there is no wisdom. With concentration, wisdom arises." Samatha is the foundation of concentration. When the mind is anchored, no longer pulled around by distractions, insight naturally appears. It's like looking into a lake. You don't stir the water to see the bottom. You simply let it settle. A story. A young office worker was constantly stressed. His mind raced with hundreds of thoughts. He tried books, movies, outings. Nothing brought peace. At a retreat, he was guided to sit still, simply following the breath. At first, his mind fought back, but after weeks of practice, he found his mind settling, like a morning lake. He said, "For the first time, I felt true clarity. My problems didn't vanish, but I no longer panicked. I could see them clearly, common pitfalls, wanting instant calm. A rippled lake doesn't flatten in a second. Stillness takes time, forcing the mind to be blank. Samatha isn't pushing thoughts away, it's letting them fade naturally. Thinking calm is enough. Samatha builds stability, but true wisdom also requires vipassana, insight practice. Try this practice. Each day, spend 5 quiet minutes. Sit upright, relax your shoulders. Close your eyes gently. Inhale, know you're inhaling. Exhale, know you're exhaling. If the mind stirs, smile and whisper. Waves always settle. Gradually, you'll feel your mind becoming clear and light, like a still lake at dawn. Evening reflection tonight. Before bed, sit for 5 minutes. No phone, no music, nothing. Just you and your breath. Notice how the mind settles and how that stillness naturally leads to deeper rest. Samatha reminds us, peace isn't somewhere else. It's always here, waiting, if only we allow the mind to grow still. If samatha is still water, then vipassana is seeing into its depths, discovering the true nature of all things. Real strength is not reacting. Have you ever been hurt by someone's words? Instantly, anger flares up. I have to clap back, prove myself, fight back. But what usually happens when we react right away? Arguments escalate, wounds deepen, and we end up twice as exhausted. In modern culture, quick reactions are often praised as strength. Silence, on the other hand, is seen as weakness. But through the lens of Buddhism, the truth is the opposite. The real strength is not reacting. The misunderstanding, silence, weakness, we grow up believing. If you don't fight back, you'll be walked over. But in reality, quick reactions usually mean emotions are in control. Silence is not surrender. Silence is mastery. The power to hold your ground without being dragged around by another's words. Mindfulness as inner strength in the Dhammapada. The Buddha said, "Better to conquer yourself than 1,000 battles." When you choose not to react, it's not fear, it's strength. The strength to keep peace within. That victory is greater than any argument. Mindfulness is the tool that gives us this strength. It allows us to pause, so the tongue doesn't lash out, the mind doesn't get hijacked by old habits. In that pause, true power lives. A story. During a meeting, a man was attacked by a colleague. Instead of snapping back, he paused, breathed, and calmly said, "I'll reflect on what you said." At first, people thought he was weak, but days later, when he returned with a clear, solid solution, everyone saw his calmness had prevented a blow-up. He later shared, "If I had reacted, I would have lost peace and respect. By staying calm, I actually held the real strength." Common pitfalls: confusing silence with suppression. Suppression festers into resentment. Mindful silence means breathing, recognizing, and releasing. Fear of being seen as weak. Others may judge, but your peace is the truest strength. Forcing yourself to hold it in. Without mindfulness, silence is just bottling up. Real strength is conscious, calm presence, a practice for everyday life. Next time someone provokes you, pause. Before speaking, inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Notice the emotion. Whisper, "This anger is not me." Choose wisely. If unready, simply say, "I need some time to think." Just one breath can turn reaction into wisdom. Evening. Reflection tonight. Recall a recent moment when you wanted to react instantly. Write down, what triggered you? How might silence and a breath have changed the outcome? Treat it as a mental gym exercise, training your muscle of non-reaction. Not reacting is not weakness. It is choosing a higher strength, the strength of inner peace and self-mastery. When you pause, you don't just save yourself, you save the situation from spiraling. This is the art of transformation. Instead of fueling fire with fire, you let it die in the light of mindfulness. If non-reaction is strength, the next step is turning that silence into living wisdom, learning to speak and act at the right time, in the right way. Practice 5 minutes of presence. Have you ever felt like you spent the whole day living, but didn't actually live? You rush to work in the morning, eat while scrolling your phone, sprint through meetings and messages, then stare at a screen at night. Only when you lie down do you realize, I didn't have a single real moment for myself today. In that spinning cycle, what we lack most isn't time, it's presence. And with just 5 minutes, you can come home to yourself, touch peace, and begin to heal. What does presence mean? Presence doesn't mean abandoning life to meditate in the mountains. It means being fully here now. When eating, just eat. When listening, just listen. When breathing, just breathe. With presence, we're no longer dragged into the past or anxious about the future. We return to our true home, the present moment. Resting in mindfulness Buddhist teachings use a beautiful phrase, resting and true, to stop and dwell peacefully in the present. The Buddha taught, the past is gone, the future hasn't arrived, only the present is the field of life. Just 5 minutes resting in breath or in your steps can nourish mindfulness and calm body and mind. A small story. An office worker came home exhausted every day. "I have no time to rest," she said. One day she tried a midday 5-minute presence break. She simply sat, closed her eyes and breathed slowly. At first her mind raced. Gradually a quiet inner space opened. She shared, "Just 5 minutes, but my whole afternoon felt lighter. My mind was less tense." Common mistakes. Thinking 5 minutes isn't enough. 5 mindful minutes can change your whole day. Forcing a blank mind. The point is to recognize, not suppress. Chasing results. Presence is a practice, not a finish line. Try it today, anywhere. Sit on a chair or the floor, spine upright, shoulders soft. Gently close your eyes. Inhale. Silently note. Breathing in. 4. Exhale. Silently note. Breathing out. 5. If thoughts appear, smile. I see you. Then come back to the breath. In just 5 minutes, your mind settles like a quiet lake. A night practice. Before sleep, try the 5-minute presence. Turn off your phone, sit on your bed, breathe slowly. Do nothing else but be with your breath. Tomorrow, you'll likely start the day clearer and lighter. When we gift ourselves 5 minutes of presence, we give a priceless gift, the chance to touch real life. We stop being swept away, stand steadier, feel more at peace. And naturally, our love flows more gently to others. If 5 minutes can change a day, imagine turning presence into a habit in everything. Walking, standing, sitting, lying down. Story. The monk and the storm. One night in a mountain temple, the sky exploded with wind. Dark clouds massed, thunder cracked, trees bent low, roof tiles rattled. Villagers below panicked, running for shelter. Inside the temple lived a young monk who had just taken vows. He sat in his room shaking with fear. The thunder sounded like the sky tearing apart. The wind screamed like wild animals. He thought, if the roof blows off, what will I do? If the mountain slides, I'll die. Panicking, he ran to the abbot's room. Strangely, the elder monk sat calmly, a small oil lamp flickering, unsteady yet unwavering. "Master," the young monk trembled. "The storm is huge. I'm afraid the temple will collapse." "Aren't you scared?" the elder smiled. "The storm outside can damage the roof, but it cannot destroy the peace within you. If you chase the storm, you'll panic. If you return to your breath, you'll see. A storm is just a storm. It comes and goes." The young monk sat beside him, closed his eyes, and for the first time, tried breathing inside the storm. Thunder still roared, but slowly a quiet settled in his heart. The inner meaning. This story isn't only about weather, it's about the storms of emotion, the storm of anger, the storm of anxiety, the storm of loss or failure. If we chase the storm, it sweeps us away. If we come back to the breath and rest, we see every storm passes and clear sky remains. Impermanence and resting Buddhism teaches that all things are impermanent. Storms come and go. Sadness rises and fades. Practicing mindful resting keeps us from being carried off. Like the elder monk, we don't fight or panic. We simply light a small lamp, the lamp of awareness, to shine through the night. A modern storm, maybe your storm, is a harsh email from your boss. Instantly, your mind whirls. Anger, shame, worry. If you react right away, you might fire off a message you'll regret. If you pause and breathe deeply, you'll notice a storm is rising, but you are not the storm. Common misunderstandings. Trying to push the storm away. You can't push it. You can watch it pass. Confusing resting with numbness. Resting isn't not feeling. It's feeling fully without being swept away. Seeking peace only when storms hit. Peace is built daily, like a lamp lit before night falls. A 3-step practice. Next time, tension spikes. Pause. Don't react yet. Inhale, silently note. A storm is rising. Exhale, silently note. I am the sky, not the storm. Imagine a small lamp glowing in your heart. Winds may scream, but the lamp keeps its flame. Night reflection before bed. Recall a recent storm. Write down, what was the storm? If you had returned to your breath and simply observed, what might have changed? This is the first step to becoming the elder monk in your own life. Peace doesn't depend on whether storms stop. It depends on how we meet them. When we return to the breath, we stand steady, and every storm becomes a teacher. If this story teaches us to rest during storms, the next step is to keep the light burning, not only in storms, but also on calm, sunny days. Why nothing lasts forever. Flowers bloom, then fade. Have you ever watched a flower just after it blooms? Morning dew clings to the petals. A gentle fragrance fills the air. You look and think, I wish this could last forever. But within days, the petals soften and fade. The color dulls, the scent thins, and eventually the flower falls, leaving emptiness behind. This is life's law. Everything is impermanent. Impermanence. Obvious, yet easy to forget. We know flowers bloom and wither. Days arrive and depart. Youth gives way to age. Yet when we face loss, a breakup, a death, a dream that doesn't come true, we suffer as if it shouldn't have happened. Suffering arises when we try to make the impermanent permanent. Impermanence and freedom the Buddha taught. All conditioned things are impermanent. Nothing lasts, neither joy nor sorrow. This isn't pessimism, it's liberating wisdom. If pain is impermanent, it will pass. If happiness is impermanent, we cherish it while it's here. Impermanence isn't to frighten us. It's a reminder to live more deeply now. A small story. A woman loved roses. Each time a bloom faded, she felt guilty. I must be a bad caretaker. A friend gifted her a succulent and said, roses blaze brightly but fade fast. Succulents last longer, but they too will one day wither. What matters isn't keeping things forever, it's appreciating them while they're here. From then on, when a rose withered, she felt less sorrow and more gratitude for the season it had brightened her life. Common missteps. Trying to hold on forever. Clinging only multiplies pain. Equating impermanence with meaninglessness. Impermanence is what makes life precious. Fearing impermanence. Seen with wisdom, it invites deeper love and presence. A simple practice with a flower, choose a flower, on your desk, in a garden, or even a photo. Look closely, colors, scent, the fine veins in each petal. Whisper, you are here, and I'm grateful. We recognize one day it will fade, and that's why this moment is so precious. Night gratitude before sleep. Write 3 things you're grateful for today. No matter how small, a smile, a cup of tea, a ray of sun. Remind yourself, because everything changes, everything deserves to be cherished. Impermanence doesn't steal happiness. It ends our illusions so we can love truly. Accepting impermanence loosens our grip and reveals a deeper peace. Like the flower, life is most beautiful not because it lasts forever, but because it blooms fully while it's here. If impermanence teaches that nothing lasts, the next step is learning to release our clinging, because clinging is the root of our suffering. The kite and the broken string. Do you remember the last time you flew a kite? Windy afternoons, a bright blue sky, kids cheering as the kite slowly climbs. And then sometimes, the string suddenly snaps. The kite slips from our hands, wobbles for a moment, and then soars higher than when it was held tight. That moment is bittersweet and a little astonishing. So when the grip is gone, the kite can fly that far. Losing something isn't always a loss when something breaks. A relationship ends, a job is over, a dream doesn't happen. We often assume it's a permanent loss. Look more closely and you'll see. Sometimes what breaks is really an opening, an invitation to fly higher, to walk a new path you couldn't see while you were still tied down. Impermanence and letting go Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent. Coming and going, meeting and parting. A break isn't a final period. It's a natural turn in the flow of causes and conditions. When one door closes, it may be because that karmic chapter is complete. When we release our grip, we make space for something fresher to appear. A kite truly climbs only when the tight string is released. A small story: a friend of mine lost her job after many years. At first, she spiraled, convinced the future had slammed shut. In that season, she started learning design. Years later, she became a freelance designer. Good income, freedom to travel, and work she loved. She told me, "The day that job string snapped, I thought my life collapsed. Looking back, that's when my kite really started to fly." Common pitfalls. Seeing loss as the end. Often, it's one chapter closing so a new one can begin. Trying to retie a string that's meant to be cut. Clinging can deepen the pain. Not believing you can soar. Each of us can rise once we loosen our grip. A reflection. Take a few minutes to write. 1. Break you've experienced. A relationship, job, or dream. What new thing emerged afterward? What did you learn? You may notice many losses opened the door to growth and freedom. A night mantra. If something is tugging at your heart tonight, whisper, maybe this isn't a loss. Maybe it's a chance to fly higher. Let that reminder soften your grip and open you to impermanence. When the kite string snaps, it reminds us, not every loss is a tragedy. Sometimes it's a gift, an invitation to a higher view. Seeing this, we fear impermanence less and trust more that whatever happens can become a path of healing and growth. If the kite flies higher when the string breaks, the next step is learning not to cling to what no longer fits, because only when the hands release can the heart be truly free. The mistake: trying to hold joy forever. Freezing the moment do. You remember the last time you felt truly happy? Maybe a birthday with friends, a warm hug from family, or a trip full of memories. In that moment, you wished, if only this could last forever. If only time would stop here. That wish is human, but trying to freeze joy is often the root of our pain. When the moment passes, we feel empty, wistful, even lost. The impulse to keep what's beautiful. We fear losing happiness more than we actually enjoy it. In the middle of joy, we silently worry, what if this ends tomorrow? Then when it ends, we long to pull it back. But life doesn't let us freeze anything. Joy is as impermanent as sadness. Impermanence. Inside happiness, Buddhism teaches, all conditioned things are impermanent. Not just sorrow, joy changes too. That doesn't make joy meaningless. It makes it precious. Like a flower that blooms and fades. Its briefness invites us to savor it fully while it's here. Mindfulness lets us enjoy happiness without clinging. We don't have to hold it forever. We just live it fully while it's present. A small story. A father filmed every second of his daughter's first steps, desperate to preserve the miracle. Later, watching the video, he realized it didn't carry the same pulse he felt when he was fully there. He understood, the most precious thing isn't in the recording, it's in our full presence while life is happening. Common pitfalls. Trying to trap joy in photos and videos. They can remind us, but they can't replace lived presence. Fearing joy's end. That fear blocks our ability to enjoy it now. Confusing appreciation with attachment. Appreciation is savoring. Attachment is trying to make it stay. A practice for happy moments. Next time joy appears, a great coffee, a laugh with friends, a sunset, try 1. Pause for a few seconds. Inhale, silently note. I am happy, pray. Exhale, silently note. I know this joy will pass. Smile, not with sadness, but with gratitude. Like a river, joy keeps flowing. New waters will come. Night reflection, recall a recent happy moment and write, what made me happy? Was I truly present for it? If not, promise yourself, next time, instead of fearing the end, you'll live it fully while it's here. Seeing the impermanence of joy reduces the ache when it passes. We stop chasing the past and start thanking it. When we fully live small joys, life grows vibrant. No freezing required, only mindful savoring. If clinging to joy is a mistake, the next step is opening to both joy and sorrow, because both are teachers inviting us to live more deeply. Sadness as a teacher, loss reveals the value of love. Have you ever felt a sadness so heavy you thought you might not rise again? A loved one gone, a relationship ending, a dream collapsing. Suddenly the world feels grey. We usually treat sadness like an enemy to eliminate fast. Through the Buddhist lens, sadness can also be a teacher. It doesn't come to destroy us, but to teach us about love, appreciation, and the truth of impermanence. Sadness. A mirror of love-sadness appears because we once loved, cared, and cherished. Without love, there'd be no pain at losing. So sadness mirrors the depth of our love. It reminds us love is a gift, and loss deepens our understanding of its value. Suffering and the path of transformation. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha begins with dukkha, suffering, as a fact of life. Not to make us despair, but to help us see causes and walk a path to its end. Grief offers a chance to look deeply, to see impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. To see how over-attachment amplifies pain, to feel compassion grow, having suffered. We can understand others more tenderly. A small story: a woman lost her beloved father. For months, tears and numbness. Gradually she realized, The pain taught her to treasure each ordinary moment with her mother and the family she still had. She said, "If Dad hadn't gone, I might not have known how priceless each meal and conversation with Mum really is." Sadness became the teacher that showed her how to love while love is still here. Common pitfalls. Running from sadness. Avoidance gives it more power, living inside sadness forever. Remember, sadness is a lesson, not your destiny. Comparing grief. Every heart has its own journey, a gentle practice when sadness arises, instead of pushing it away. Sit quietly for 5 minutes. Place your hand on your chest. Breathe slowly. Whisper, "Hello, sadness. I see you. What are you here to teach me?" This turns sadness into a teacher, not an enemy. A letter to your sadness tonight. Write a few lines to your sadness. "Thank you for showing me the value of love. Thank you for reminding me to cherish what remains." Even a short note can lighten the heart. Sadness softens when it's seen and heard. Sadness is not a period at the end of our story. It's a bridge to maturity. It deepens the heart, helps us cherish love while we have it, and opens compassion for others who hurt. That is the healing power, turning sadness into wisdom, turning loss into growth. If sadness can be a teacher, the next step is learning to listen, to both joy and sorrow, because only by listening fully can we truly understand and truly heal. Practice gratitude instead of forever. Have you ever noticed this? When a beautiful moment arrives, instead of enjoying it, your mind whispers, "I wish this could last forever. I wish this person, this love, this joy would never leave." But it's that wish for forever that brings suffering. Life follows the law of impermanence. Nothing stays unchanged. So instead of clinging, what if we simply chose to say thank you? Gratitude. Instead of clinging, every experience, joyful or painful, is a gift. Saying thank you means acknowledging, "I have received this, I have lived this, and now I release it so life can keep flowing." Gratitude transforms the craving for permanence into a gentle appreciation of the present. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "To say a single word of thanks is also meditation." A small story. An old grandfather watched his grandchild playing. He knew childhood would pass quickly. Instead of worrying about the day his grandchild would grow up and drift away, he simply smiled and whispered, "Thank you for laughing with me today." With gratitude, he could fully enjoy each moment without regret about the future. Common pitfalls. Wanting happiness to last forever. The tighter we hold, the more it hurts. Being grateful only for the good. Even difficulties deserve thanks, for they teach us to grow. Thinking gratitude is passive. In truth, gratitude deepens our living and makes every action sacred. A gentle practice. Each night before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Nothing grand is needed. A smile, a good meal, a cool breeze. Let gratitude sink into your heart. You'll feel lighter, calmer, and the next time joy arises, a hug, a compliment, a quiet moment, try whispering inwardly, "Thank you." One word is enough to make an ordinary moment sacred. Gratitude helps us stop demanding forever. It lets us rest in impermanence with peace, with an open heart. Gratitude turns loss into lessons, the present into a gift. If gratitude helps us loosen our grip on forever, the next step is learning to live fully in each moment, because happiness only ever exists in the present. The trap of regret. Have you ever lain in bed while your mind whispers, "If only I had done it differently. If only I hadn't said those words. If only I could go back." That's the trap of regret. It's like carrying a cracked jar to fetch water. You walk far, you work hard, but by the time you return, the jar is empty. You're left with nothing but exhaustion. Regret drains our energy, keeping us tied to a past that can never return. Regret, the shadow of the past. Regret never belongs to the present. It's a shadow cast by what's already gone. The longer we cling, the tighter it chains us. Worse, regret can paralyze us. Afraid of repeating mistakes, we stop moving forward. So regret not only steals the past, it robs the future too. Karma and transformation in Buddhism. Every thought, word, and deed creates karma. Mistakes are karma too, but what matters isn't that we failed. It's what we do next. If we sink into regret, we repeat the same cycle. If we face mistakes with mindfulness, we learn, transform, and plant better seeds. The Buddha didn't teach us to erase the past, but to transform it into the soil of wisdom and compassion. A small story. A friend of mine long carried guilt for not being with his mother in her final days. For years he lived under that shadow. One day, a teacher told him, "Turn your love for your mother into service for others. Let her absence be the reason you are more present now." So he began volunteering, caring for the elderly. He said, "Every time I do, I feel like I'm making it up to my mother, and she smiles inside my heart." Regret became fuel for kindness, instead of a prison. Common pitfalls. Thinking regret proves love. True love doesn't need regret, it needs presence. Punishing yourself endlessly, that only wastes the chance to change. Believing the past defines you. The present is where your story is rewritten. A gentle practice when regret surfaces. Try this. Inhale, whisper, "This is the past." Exhale, whisper, "I choose to plant a new seed." Take one small action today. Call someone you love, apologize, or simply smile at a stranger. Each new act is a whole jar, full of fresh water. Night reflection. Write down one regret you carry. Then ask, how can I transform this into a positive act today? If you can act, do it now. If not, just breathe and smile. Remind yourself the past is gone, but the present is wide open. When we step out of regret's trap, we stop being prisoners of the past. Mistakes become teachers. The past becomes a lesson, and each step in the present feels lighter, freer. Like leaving the cracked jar behind and carrying a whole one, ready to fill your life with fresh energy. If regret binds us to the past, the next step is learning to release self-blame and nurture compassion for ourselves, because only self-forgiveness can set us truly free. Why self-torment is not growth. Have you ever done this? After a mistake, you keep repeating, "Why was I so stupid? I'm terrible. If only I'd done it differently." Many believe self-blame and torment are ways to grow, that the more we suffer, the more we learn. But the truth is, self-torment doesn't make us grow. It only leaves deeper wounds. Self-torment, the invisible chain. When we torment ourselves, we play judge and prisoner at the same time. Every day we drag our mistakes into court, then sentence ourselves again. The result? Energy for the present is drained. The cycle repeats: guilt, torment, paralysis. We lose faith in ourselves, convinced we don't deserve better. This isn't growth. It's self-imprisonment. Suffering alone doesn't lead to wisdom. The Buddha taught that suffering is real, but not all suffering brings awakening. Only suffering illuminated by insight leads to freedom. If we drown in self-blame, that's ignorance. If we face mistakes with mindfulness, seeing causes, offering compassion to ourselves, then mistakes become compost for wisdom. A small story. A young woman once made an error at work that cost her company a big contract. For months, she tortured herself, believing she had no worth. Her confidence crumbled, and work suffered more. At a mindfulness retreat, she learned, mistakes are lessons, not life sentences. She began asking, what did I learn? How can I do differently next time? Slowly, her confidence returned. She grew more careful, and eventually she was promoted. Common pitfalls. Confusing torment with remorse. Remorse learns. Torment just repeats pain, using torment as punishment. Hurting yourself never heals. Believing you don't deserve forgiveness. That's attachment to a negative self-image. A gentle practice. Write a letter to yourself as if to a dear friend who made a mistake. I know you're hurting. This mistake doesn't define you. You can learn and do better next time. Writing is an act of self-compassion that loosens the chain of self-blame. Night reflection. Tonight, recall a mistake. Instead of asking, why am I so awful? Ask, what lesson is this teaching me for growth? Change the question and the energy shifts. Self-torment only deepens the prison, but compassion for yourself transforms mistakes into fertilizer for wisdom. Like soil enriched with compost, your inner tree grows stronger, giving shade to yourself and others. That is real growth, growth rooted in mindfulness and compassion. If self-torment is not growth, the next step is learning self-forgiveness. Because only when you release the burden can you walk freely again. Compassion for your former self. Looking back with love. Have you ever reopened an old journal or stumbled across a photo from years ago and felt your heart sink? You saw a version of yourself, maybe innocent, maybe reckless, maybe full of wounds. And your first reaction was judgment. Why was I so stupid? If only I had been wiser. If only I had been stronger, maybe everything would have been different. But here's the truth. That former you laid the stepping stones that brought you here. What they need from you isn't blame, it's compassion, your former self. The child within every stage of life is like a version of us, and each version did the best it could with the knowledge, the strength, and the circumstances it had at the time. The child within us may have been naive. The young adult within us may have been impulsive, hot-headed. The grown adult may have chosen wrongly at times, but every version deserves to be remembered with kindness, not condemnation, non-self and compassion. Buddhism teaches that we are not a fixed self, but a stream, always flowing, always changing. The you of yesterday is no longer the you of today. When we see through the lens of non-self, we realize our former selves weren't wrong for not knowing. They were learning. And the most healing thing we can do is smile softly and say, "Thank you for carrying me this far." A practice of compassion. Sit quietly, close your eyes. Imagine a younger version of yourself, maybe at 10, 20, or at a time when you were most hurt. Look them in the eyes and whisper, "Oh, I know you suffered. Oh, thank you for trying your best. Oh, I hold you now with love." Tonight, pick an old photo of yourself. Instead of judgment, write a loving note to the person in the picture. For example, "I'm proud of you. Because of you, I am who I am today." When we can be gentle with our past selves, we stop waging war with the past. Life becomes softer, and we naturally extend that same compassion to others. Because we know everyone is just walking their own learning path. That's the real healing power. Compassion for ourselves, so we can hold the world with compassion too. Let go or get dragged. There's a famous Zen saying, "Let go or be dragged." It sounds simple, but how many of us truly let go? Most of the time, we cling to people we love, to jobs, to expectations, and when life shifts, we resist. Instead of releasing, we get dragged along, scraped and bruised. The cost of holding on, picture yourself gripping a rope that's being pulled away. At first, you think holding tighter will save you, but the harder you grip, the deeper the rope cuts into your skin. In truth, the only way to stop the pain is to let go. Life is the same. If we refuse to release, pain drags us endlessly. Letting go is liberation in the Dharma. Letting go doesn't mean neglect or indifference. It means releasing attachment to what is impermanent. Let go of anger, so it doesn't rule you. Let go of a relationship whose time has ended, so both people can be free. Let go of rigid expectations, so you can see what's actually here. The Buddha taught, suffering is born from craving and clinging. Letting go ends the cycle and returns us to peace. A Zen parable: two monks were walking down a muddy road when they saw a young woman afraid to cross. One monk carried her across. Hours later, the other monk said, "How could you carry a woman?"
"We are monks."
The first monk smiled. "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" The story reminds us, what we refuse to release, we keep carrying long after it's gone. Common mistakes about letting go. Confusing letting go with abandonment. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care without chains, forcing yourself to cut off. Letting go isn't violent. It's soft, like unclenching a fist. Believing letting go means loss. In reality, letting go is the only way to gain peace. A simple practice: clench a small object in your hand. Feel the strain. Now open your palm and drop it. Notice the relief. Each time you feel dragged by worry or memory, remind yourself, open the hand. Tonight, write down one thing you're clinging to: a relationship, an expectation, a memory. Then ask, if I released this, what would shift inside my heart? When we let go, we're no longer pulled by the chaos of craving, anger, and fear. We stand steady, free, alive. Letting go isn't loss. It's returning things to their impermanent nature, and in doing so, we reclaim peace, clarity, and love. That was the past. This is the present. How to break free from the past. Have you ever felt stuck in things that already happened? Maybe it was a hurtful comment from years ago, a mistake at work, or a relationship that ended. Time has passed, but the memory keeps coming back like an unhealed wound. Sometimes we live in the present, but our hearts remain in the past. It's like sitting on a train. Instead of watching the scenery go by, we keep turning around to look behind us. Why do we get stuck in the past? Because we cling to what once felt familiar. Because we regret what we've lost. Because we haven't forgiven ourselves or others. But the more we hold on to the past, the more we lose the present, the only place where life truly happens. Living in the present in the discourse on the past. Future and present, the Buddha taught. Do not chase after the past. Do not place your hopes in the future. Only the present moment is to be observed. This means we don't deny the past, but we also don't let it control us. The past is just memory, the future only imagination. The present is the only place we can live, love, and transform. A woman I know suffered deeply after her divorce. For years, she lived in anger and regret. Then one day, while watching her son laugh and play, she realized, if I keep drowning in the past, I'll miss my child's entire childhood. From then on, she practiced reminding herself whenever her mind drifted back. That was the past. This is the present. Slowly, she broke free from the shadows and began to truly enjoy life with her son. Common misunderstandings. Thinking that letting go of the past means betraying memories. In truth, it means putting memories in their rightful place, without letting them dominate the present. Trying to erase the past completely. You can't erase it. You can only accept it and learn from it. Focusing only on painful memories. Forgetting the past also holds beauty and gratitude. A simple practice. Whenever an old memory pulls you back, try this. Inhale and silently say, that was the past. Exhale and silently say, this is the present. Look around. Notice one small thing right here. The color of the sky, the sound of birds, the feeling of your hand. This simple mantra helps anchor you in the moment. Evening reflection tonight. Write down one past memory that still weighs on you. Then add, I'm grateful this memory taught me, but now I choose to live in the present. This way, you both honor the past and free yourself from its grip. When we truly realize That was the past. This is the present. We step out of invisible chains. We are no longer victims of what was. We become masters of the moment we are living. And it is in this moment that we can love, create good karma, and open the door to a new future. If the present is the only place we can live, the next step is to bring mindfulness into everyday actions, so that each step, each breath becomes a doorway to peace. The burden of expectations. Have you ever felt exhausted by the expectations you set for yourself? I need a raise this year. I must get promoted or I'll fall behind my peers. They must love me the way I love them. At first, expectations feel like motivation. But when we cling too tightly, they become a heavy burden, making us anxious, disappointed, and trapped. Expectation versus reality. Reality is what's actually happening. Expectation is the picture we paint in our minds. When the two don't match, we suffer. For example, you expect a raise, but your company isn't planning one yet. The result? You feel it's unfair. You get angry, maybe even start doubting your self-worth. Expectations aren't bad, but clinging to them is what causes pain, desire, and impermanence. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is tanha, craving and attachment. When we expect but don't get what we want, we suffer. When we do get it, we suffer again, fearing it will be lost. Understanding impermanence helps us see nothing is guaranteed forever. Salary changes, titles change, relationships change. If we place our happiness only in those things, we'll always live in anxiety. A young man once set the expectation that within 5 years of working, he must become a manager. He worked day and night, but when someone else got promoted before him, he collapsed. He lost all joy at work and even fell into depression. Later, he learned from meditation. Work isn't about chasing a title, it's about learning and contributing. When he let go of the must be promoted expectation, he rediscovered joy in each project, and one day, unexpectedly, he was promoted, yet by then, it was no longer a burden. Common mistakes. Confusing goals with expectations. Goals are directions. Expectations are attachments to outcomes. Placing happiness in other people's hands. For example, only feeling happy if your partner shows affection, or if your boss acknowledges you. Believing you'll only be complete once expectations are met. The truth, fulfillment can be found right now, by appreciating what you already have. Practice. Drop expectation, keep effort. Next time you set a goal, add this reminder. I will give my best effort, but I won't cling to the result. For example, I'll work hard for a raise, but if it doesn't happen yet, I'll still learn and grow. This mindset lightens the load. You work with joy instead of pressure. Evening reflection tonight. Write down one expectation that's been weighing on you, then rewrite it into a gentler goal with a spirit of letting go. Example, from I must be promoted to I'll keep learning so I become stronger and steadier. Sometimes, simply changing the words shifts the energy. When we release the burden of expectation, we stop living in constant tension and disappointment. We learn to put in effort without clinging, to love without demanding, to live fully without needing life to go exactly our way. That is true freedom, the freedom of the heart. If expectations can weigh us down, the next step is learning to find joy in the simplicity of the present, so that happiness no longer depends on what's outside of us. Goals versus expectations. Knowing the difference, you noticed how often we think we're setting goals, but in reality we're trapping ourselves with expectations. For example, goal. I'll study Chinese for 30 minutes a day to improve. Expectation. In just 3 months, I must speak Chinese like a native. Goals bring motivation and direction, but expectations, if held too tightly, become burdens and the root of suffering. Goals, a guiding light. Goals give us direction. They're what get us out of bed, keep us disciplined, and remind us why we're working hard. A goal is like a lantern lighting the path at night. It helps us know where we're heading. A good goal is flexible. It adjusts when life changes, but still carries the spirit of growth and learning. Expectations are different. They're mental images we cling to. If reality matches, we're happy. If not, we spiral into disappointment, self-blame, even despair. Expectations don't light the way. They weigh us down. If I don't achieve this, I'm a failure. Right effort and Buddhist wisdom in the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha taught about right effort, effort made with mindfulness and wisdom, not with craving or attachment. When we pursue goals with right effort, we give our best while keeping peace in our hearts. When we turn goals into rigid expectations, we fall into craving, and suffering appears the moment results differ from what we imagined. Take two writers. One woman set a goal to finish her book in a year. She wrote daily, feeling joy as each page came alive. A man, on the other hand, expected his first book to be a bestseller. When sales disappointed, he was crushed and quit writing altogether. Same act of writing, yet one found peace on the journey, while the other drowned in suffering because of his attachment to results. Common mistakes. Mistaking expectations for motivation. True motivation comes from joy in learning, not pressure. Placing happiness only at the finish line. If we only allow ourselves joy when results arrive, we miss the beauty of the process. Fearing that changing a goal equals failure. Goals can be adjusted. Expectations are rigid. A simple reflection. Write down a goal you're pursuing right now. Then ask yourself, if the outcome isn't what I imagined, what can I still learn from the journey? This one question transforms a goal into a path for growth, instead of a trap of expectation. Evening practice tonight. Choose something you're working on. Learning a skill, exercising, building a relationship. Write down, what is your goal? What is the expectation you're clinging to? Then try releasing the expectation and keeping only the goal as your guiding light. Notice how much lighter your heart feels. When we can tell the difference between goals and expectations, we learn to strive without chains. We walk forward with freedom, self-compassion, and joy in the journey. This is the art of living in the Buddha's way, diligent yet detached. If goals help us move forward but expectations drain us, then the next step is finding joy in the simple present, where happiness doesn't depend on reaching the destination. Mistake. Overwatering the seed. How pressure kills. Potential. Have you ever tried planting something in a pot? When we drop in a seed, we're so eager to see it sprout. Day after day we water it, sometimes too much, afraid it won't survive. But instead of growing, the seed rots. Life often works the same way. We plant seeds of dreams, love, or career. But instead of letting them grow naturally, we drown them in pressure, expectation, and impatience. And ironically, that very pressure kills their potential. Pressure, the silent killer of growth. A child may have real artistic talent, but if parents constantly push, compare, or criticize, the child may grow to fear the very thing they once loved. An employee may brim with creativity, but under suffocating quotas and relentless supervision, that spark slowly dies. Pressure isn't motivation. Too much pressure suffocates the soul. The middle way and conditions for growth. The Buddha taught the middle way. Not indulgence, not extreme force. Like a string on an instrument. Too tight, it snaps. Too loose, it won't play. Seeds are the same. They need conditions, soil, water, sunlight, and time. They cannot be forced to sprout faster. When we plant seeds of compassion, mindfulness, or a dream, Our role is to nurture with patience, not demand instant results. A young woman once dreamed of opening a bakery. At first, she pressured herself to succeed right away, to be praised instantly. Each failure crushed her, and within a year, she quit. Years later, she tried again with a different mindset. Each day, I'll just improve a little, learn one more recipe, try one more flavor. Without the burden of perfection, she rediscovered joy. Slowly, her small bakery blossomed. Only when she dropped the pressure did her seed finally grow. Common mistakes: confusing effort with force. Effort is steady action. Force is anxious overexertion. Setting unrealistic expectations. Wanting today's seed to be tomorrow's tree. Comparing too much. Seeing someone else's seed sprout faster and rushing your own. A practice to try. Think of a seed you're planting right now. A skill, a relationship, a dream. Write down, am I watering it with joy or with pressure? Each day, instead of pushing too much, choose one small, nurturing step. Then release the expectation of immediate results. Trust that the seed will sprout when conditions are right. Evening reflection. Tonight, ask yourself, what am I overwatering? Are you drowning yourself with impatience? If yes, write this reminder. I water my seeds with love, not with pressure. Repeat it whenever anxiety arises. When we learn to water just enough, we give our seeds the space to grow. When we let go of pressure, we give ourselves the space to breathe. This is the Buddhist art of nurturing, gentle, patient, and filled with love. If the mistake is overwatering seeds, then the next step is learning patience, trusting that every blossom has its own season, and rushing only steals the beauty of the journey. Trust the timing. When the conditions are right, the flower will bloom. Have you ever planted a flower? Some flowers bloom within weeks, while others take a year, or even several years. No matter how much you water them, no matter if you try to pull the petals open, they won't bloom any faster. Only when there's enough sun, enough rain, and enough time does the flower blossom beautifully. Life works the same way. Every dream, every journey, every person has their own season of blooming. The anxiety of not yet. We often grow impatient. Why am I not as successful as my friends yet? Why hasn't the love I've been waiting for arrived? Why haven't my efforts produced results? When we rush, we create our own suffering, like sitting in front of a pot every day, waiting for buds, only to be disappointed when none appear. Cause, condition, and impermanence in Buddhism, everything unfolds through cause and condition. A seed alone isn't enough. Without the right conditions, the result won't come. But when both causes and conditions align, the fruit naturally ripens. Understanding this, we stop panicking when things haven't arrived yet. We remember, the seeds we plant today will sprout when conditions are right. Nothing lasts forever, not even waiting. The right timing will come when all elements align. A friend of mine once dreamed of starting his own business. He prepared for years, but every time he tried, something got in the way. Not enough capital, a partner backing out, or family issues. He grew frustrated, thinking he was a failure. But years later, after gaining more experience, saving enough money, and meeting the right partner, his company finally took off and grew strong. He told me, if I had forced it earlier, I probably would have failed. The right time came when I was ready. Common pitfalls, forcing results to come too soon, like pulling open petals, only to ruin the bud. Comparing your timing to someone else's, every flower blooms in its own season. Losing faith when results don't show up. Forgetting that waiting itself is nourishment. Whenever impatience rises, remind yourself, the flower will bloom when the conditions are right. Write it down. Stick it on your desk or in your journal. Each time you see it, breathe deeply and trust that you are nurturing your own seed. Tonight, write down something you're waiting for. A chance, a love, a result. Then ask yourself, Have I planted enough causes? What can I nourish in the present? When you focus on planting and nurturing, your heart feels lighter instead of tense from staring at an empty pot. Trusting the timing doesn't mean sitting still and doing nothing. It means planting and caring with faith instead of anxiety or force. When we believe that flowers bloom when conditions are ripe, we learn patience, presence, and how to enjoy the waiting itself. If trusting the timing helps us feel calm in waiting, the next step is learning to enjoy the journey itself, not just the results. Practice. The seed will sprout when it's ready. Have you ever planted a seed and checked the soil every single day? The first day, nothing. The second day, still nothing. You start to worry, but then, one morning, out of nowhere, a tiny sprout appears. Not early, not late, but exactly when it's ready. Life is the same. Every dream, every relationship, every step of growth is like a seed. It won't sprout when we want it to, but when the causes and conditions are ripe. Faith over restlessness in daily life. We plant seeds with our effort. We study, hoping success will come quickly. We love, hoping for instant fulfillment. We practice, hoping for immediate peace. But just as overwatering can rot a seed, impatience only disturbs the heart. Faith is the fertile ground where seeds thrive. Cause, condition, and right. Faith Buddhism teaches that everything depends on the harmony of causes and conditions. A seed has potential, but it needs soil, water, light, and time to grow. The practice here is right faith, a wise kind of trust, not blind belief. Trust in cause and effect. Trust that the efforts we sow never disappear. They ripen when conditions align. With right faith, we grow patient and peaceful, neither rushing nor despairing. A friend of mine applied for a management role several times, only to fail. He thought he lacked ability, but instead of giving up, he kept learning, building his skills. Years later, when the company faced changes and needed someone both skilled and patient, he was chosen. He said, "If I'd been promoted earlier, I wasn't ready. Now I see. It came at the perfect time." Common pitfalls. Mistaking faith for passivity. Trusting a seed doesn't mean doing nothing, it means planting while patiently nurturing. Losing faith when results don't show. Forgetting that silence is when roots grow underground. Comparing yourself to others. Every seed sprouts on its own schedule. Seed reminder. Pick a dream or project you're nurturing. Write down a simple reminder. I plant, I water. Blooming belongs to timing. Each day, instead of worrying, take one small action to nurture it. Then release control. Trust that results will come when the time is right. Tonight, before bed, ask yourself, which seed am I planting? What did I do to nurture it today? That alone shifts you from worry to trust. Believing that seeds sprout when ready helps us be gentler with ourselves. We stop blaming fate or punishing ourselves for not seeing results. We live in the peace of the present while holding trust in the future. That trust is like sunlight, quietly warming the soil, helping the seed rise without us pulling it up. If seeds sprout when ready, then the next lesson is learning to treasure every step of nurturing. Because happiness isn't only in the day the flower blooms, but in every day we care for it. Skillful means gentle as the wind. Have you ever sat beneath a tree and felt the breeze pass by? The wind doesn't scream, it doesn't force, it doesn't cling. It just brushes against you, cool, refreshing, and then moves on. Yet that same wind soothes your skin, makes flowers sway, and lifts kites high into the sky. In Buddhism, there's a concept called upaya kausalya, or skillful means. It means finding wise, gentle, and fitting ways to guide or help others, just like the wind, influencing without imposing. Why the wind is such a beautiful metaphor. The wind touches but never forces. It passes across our skin without demanding that we change. The wind sustains life. Clean air lets trees grow and people breathe easier. The wind is free. It comes and goes with conditions, without clinging to anything. If we can learn to live and love like the wind, we'll know how to lift others up without tying them down. Skillful means in practice. The Buddha taught that not everyone has the same capacity to understand. That's why skillful means are essential. Knowing how to speak and act so others can receive in the way that works best for them. For a child, a teaching may be told as a fable. For an intellectual, it might be a deep philosophy. For someone in pain, it may simply be a hug or a smile. Like the wind, the Buddha's teachings touch each place differently, but always bring a sense of relief. A mother once wanted her son to study harder. At first, she yelled and forced him, but that only made him resist. Later, she changed her approach. She sat with him, broke the homework into smaller pieces, and praised even small progress. She stopped being a storm and became a breeze. And the result? The boy slowly began to love learning, not because he was forced, but because he felt supported. Common pitfalls. Mistaking love for control. True love uplifts. It doesn't chain. Believing the stronger the force, the quicker the change. In truth, pressure creates resistance, while gentleness penetrates deeper. Demanding instant results, forgetting that wind only carries freshness. Real change still takes time. A gentle practice. Choose one relationship that feels tense right now. Today, instead of arguing or forcing, try being like the wind. Speak more softly. Listen more deeply. Offer a small act of kindness without expecting anything back. You'll feel the energy shift almost immediately. Tonight, write down one thing. Tomorrow, I'll do one gentle thing, like the wind. For someone, it could be a compliment, a cup of tea for a coworker, or a comforting text. It doesn't need to be grand. Even the lightest breeze can bring a smile. Skillful means remind us that love isn't about holding on, but about offering the right support at the right time. When we live like the wind, gentle, ungrasping, we set ourselves free and help others feel free too. That's the most beautiful healing of all. No one is forced, yet everyone is nourished. If we can love like the wind, touching without forcing, then the next step is learning to see value in the smallest things, because it's often in the simple, everyday gestures where we practice the deepest form of love. Influence versus control, the mistake of force. Over wisdom. Have you ever been in this situation? You want your child to excel, so you monitor every study session. You want your coworker to follow your way, so you scrutinize every detail. You want your partner to change for the better, so you constantly criticize and remind them. What happens? They resist. They pull away. They feel drained. And you feel exhausted too. This is the common mistake. Confusing influence with control. Influence. Gentle but lasting. True influence comes from wisdom, presence, and the way we live. It doesn't need force, yet it spreads powerfully. A kind father may influence his children more than 1,000 lectures. A calm colleague can ease the tension of an entire team. A loving partner who listens can make the relationship naturally feel safe. Influence is like a fragrance. It doesn't need to be seen, yet it naturally spreads. Control, short-term pressure, long-term pain control comes from fear and ego. When we force others to follow us, we may win at first, but in the long run we lose trust, affection, and connection. Control is like gripping sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the more slips away. Buddhism teaches that all things arise through causes and conditions. We can't control everything, but we can plant good seeds and nurture good conditions. When we sow wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness, we deeply influence others without pressure. The Buddha never controlled anyone. He simply lived his teachings, and that influence has lasted for thousands of years. There was once a boss known for being harsh. He controlled every detail, and everyone feared him. But the moment he left, people relaxed. No one wanted to follow his example. Another boss, however, spoke little, but led by action. Arriving early, listening carefully, treating people fairly, he didn't need to push. His team naturally followed. Force only creates temporary compliance. Influence creates real change. Common pitfalls. Believing more control means more safety. In reality, the more you control, the more you lose control. Confusing care with possession. Care lifts others up. Control holds them down, chasing short-term results, forgetting that lasting change only comes from willingness. A shift in approach. Next time you want someone to change, try leading by example instead of commands. Want your child to read more? Let them see you reading daily. Want your coworker to stay calm? Be the first to breathe deeply when tension rises. That's true influence. Tonight, write down one relationship you've been trying to control. Then ask yourself, if I stop controlling, how can I influence instead? Maybe through patience, maybe through listening, maybe through the way you live. When we give up control and choose to influence with wisdom, we free both ourselves and others. We feel less stressed, they feel less pressured, and relationships grow lighter. That's the path of healing. No one is forced, yet everyone is nourished. If influence is the real power, then the next step is learning to use wisdom to nurture love and happiness in daily life. Because wisdom and compassion always walk hand in hand. How the Buddha taught. Different methods for different people. Have you noticed how the same lesson can land differently for each person? A child needs to hear it as a story. An adult may need a logical explanation. Someone in pain may simply need a hug or a compassionate gaze. Over 2,500 years ago, the Buddha deeply understood this. He never taught rigidly. He always adjusted his approach to the capacity of the listener. The Buddha, a master of skillful, means in the scriptures, the Buddha is often called the great physician. Why? Because he knew that every illness requires a different medicine. To those with sharp intellect, he taught profound truths like the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. To ordinary people, he told parables and everyday examples. To the suffering, he offered not just words but silence and presence. This is what Buddhism calls upaya. Skillful means the art of teaching with both compassion and wisdom. Dependent, arising and individual capacity Buddhism, emphasizes that all things arise from causes and conditions. Learners are no different. Each person has their own level of readiness and awareness. If we use the wrong method, even wise words can become a burden. The Buddha always adapted. To the rational thinker, he taught with reasoning. To the emotional heart, he taught with stories. To the angry, he taught compassion practices. He never forced everyone down one narrow path. He opened many roads leading to the same destination, awakening. There's a story. One man asked the Buddha, "Does God exist?" The Buddha replied, "Yes." Later, another man asked the exact same question, "Does God exist?" The Buddha replied, "No." A disciple, confused, asked why he contradicted himself. The Buddha smiled. For the first man, believing in God eased his suffering. For the second, his attachment to God prevented him from making effort himself. Each needed a different answer to heal. This story shows the Buddha's flexible wisdom. Teachings were never formulas, but medicine, unique to each person. Common pitfalls. Forcing one teaching on everyone, forgetting each person's unique needs. Believing teachings must be fixed and unchanging. In truth, their value lies in reducing suffering. Teaching without compassion. Even wise words can cut like a knife if delivered without love. A practice. Listen before you speak. Next time you want to give advice, pause and ask yourself, what does this person truly need? Do they need advice, a story, or just my listening? When you begin with listening, you're already practicing skillful means. Tonight, reflect on a time when you gave someone advice. Ask yourself, did my words come from true listening or just from my own perspective? If I could do it again, what gentler way would I choose? This small reflection helps us grow more flexible in communication. When we learn to guide others as the Buddha did, we become like a cool breeze instead of a storm. The other person doesn't feel controlled, but supported. And we ourselves feel less drained because we're not trying to control outcomes. That's the healing power of wisdom and compassion working together. If the Buddha used different methods for different people, the next step for us is to apply that same wisdom in daily life, at work, in relationships, in parenting, and in how we treat everyone around us. Arguments at work, choosing clarity. Over winning, have you ever been caught in a workplace argument? Maybe in a tense meeting where your idea was rejected, or during a disagreement with a coworker over a project. In those moments, our instinct often says, I need to prove I'm right. I can't lose. But have you noticed? The harder you try to win, the more you actually lose. Losing cooperation, losing trust, losing your own peace of mind. The trap of winning and losing. In an argument, the ego usually shows up first. It whispers, if I don't win, they'll look down on me. So we rush into battle with words, stacking arguments to crush the other side. But at the end, whether you win or lose, both sides are hurt. The winner grows arrogant, the loser grows bitter, and the relationship cracks. Right speech and non-self Buddhism teaches right speech, words that are truthful, kind, constructive, and never intended to wound. When we argue from a desire to win, we easily fall into wrong speech, exaggeration, harsh words, or words designed to feed the ego. Understanding non-self also helps. There's no absolute I am right or you are wrong, only different perspectives. When we loosen our grip on ego, we can choose clarity over victory. At one company, two departments constantly clashed. One day, the head of Department A changed his approach. Instead of insisting, "We're right," he said, "I think we both want what's best for the company. Let's find the clearest solution, not who wins." The atmosphere softened immediately. People began listening instead of fighting. The final solution combined both sides and turned out better than either alone. The change wasn't in the issue itself, it was in the mindset. From winning to clarity. Common pitfalls. Tying your self-worth to your opinion, thinking, if I'm wrong, I'm weak, using words to attack. Even if you win, you actually lose, refusing to listen out of fear of losing face. In reality, listening doesn't make you smaller, it makes you greater. A simple practice. Next time you're in a debate before responding, try this. How? Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Ask yourself, do I want clarity or do I want to win? 3. If the answer is clarity, speak with calm and compassion. Just one breath can change the energy of the entire conversation. Tonight, think back to a recent argument. Write down, what was I trying to prove? If I had chosen clarity instead of victory, how would the outcome have changed? This reflection helps us train to spot the ego and choose wiser communication. When we choose clarity over winning, we preserve relationships and protect our own inner peace. Our words become bridges, not weapons. Even the workplace, often full of stress, can become a place to practice mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. If the workplace can become a meditation hall by choosing clarity over victory, the next step is to learn deep listening and loving speech. So every conversation becomes an opportunity to connect. Practice. Lead without clinging. A small lesson. Have you ever helped a child cross the street? You hold their hand firmly so they don't dart into traffic. But once you're safely across, you let go. Because if you never release their hand, they'll never learn to walk on their own. Life works the same way. Guidance is essential, but holding on too tightly suffocates people and stunts their independence. Leading, gentle support to lead is to offer light, open a path, and walk alongside. The person you lead feels safe and encouraged, yet still has room to take their own steps. A great teacher points the way, but lets students discover. Wise parents protect, but also let their children grow up. A clear-sighted leader inspires, without micromanaging, clinging, an invisible burden. When we cling, we think we're helping, but we're really imposing. Parents who over-control erode a child's confidence. Lovers who hold too tight turn love into shackles. Bosses who micromanage drain creativity from the team. Clinging doesn't protect anyone. It only reveals our fear of loss. In Buddhism, true love is paired with compassion and wisdom. Compassion wants others to be happy. Wisdom knows their happiness can't be controlled by us. It has to arise from them. Seeing through non-self, we realize no one belongs to anyone. We are conditions in each other's lives, companions for part of the journey. With that understanding, we guide with love, but don't grasp from ego. A young teacher adored her students. Wanting top results, she hovered over every task. Soon the kids grew afraid to make mistakes, and their creativity stalled. An elder mentor told her, "Just hand them the torch. They have to find the path." She changed course, encouraged trying, allowed mistakes, and helped them learn from them. The result? Confidence rose, and the students flourished. Common pitfalls. Confusing love with control. Control comes from fear, not love. Believing if you let go, they'll collapse. In truth, letting go teaches them to stand. Taking on responsibility that isn't yours. Everyone has their own karma to learn. A quick check. Next time you want to help someone, ask, "Am I guiding or grasping?" If you're guiding, you offer light and trust. If you're grasping, soften. Give them space to walk. Tonight, think of one relationship you're holding too tightly: child, partner, or co-worker. Write down one small action to loosen your grip. For example, instead of constant check-ins, choose trust and step back once. One small gesture, and you'll both feel lighter. Leading without clinging lets us love without binding. Helping others grow without losing their freedom. That's healthy love, love with wisdom. And when we love like that, we heal ourselves too. Less fear of loss, less burden of control, more trust and peace. If leading without clinging is the art of love, the next step is learning to create space for others to be fully themselves. Walking when you can't see the road. When plans collapse, keep moving. Have you ever built a meticulous plan, only to watch it fall apart in an instant? You thought you'd accounted for everything, then one sudden twist shattered it all. It feels like the familiar road vanished beneath your feet, only fog ahead. The natural response is panic, paralysis, or blame. But there's another option. Keep walking, even when the path isn't visible yet. When plans collapse, an employee is laid off after years of service. A long-term relationship ends. An investment project evaporates. We're stunned because we clung to the belief that things must go exactly this way. Impermanence and trust in the present Buddhism reminds us everything is impermanent. Today's clear road may be gone tomorrow. A plan is only a projection, not absolute reality. What matters most isn't whether the road remains, it's the quality of the mind that walks. With mindfulness, each step is still steady. With trust in causes and conditions, we know each step can open a new path, even if we can't see it yet. A young woman spent years preparing to study abroad. At the last minute, her visa was denied. She was devastated. The future felt blank. Later, she put that dream on pause and took a job at home. Unexpectedly, that job brought mentors, growth, and eventually led her to an even better journey. She said, "I thought the road ended. In truth, a new road began right there." Common pitfalls, standing still out of fear, thinking, No step is safer than a wrong step, but not stepping is also a choice and often costs more. Blaming the past, pouring energy into why, instead of what can I do now? Clinging to the old plan, like holding a broken bridge and getting hurt. A one-step practice. When the road disappears, try this. Pause, inhale, exhale. Look at your feet and say, I still have this step. Take one slow, solid step. Focus on the next small step in the present, and the new path will gradually reveal itself. Tonight, write down a plan in your life that once collapsed. Then ask, what good eventually came from that breakdown? You may find that losing one road was how you discovered a wider one. When we learn to walk even without a visible road, we fear collapse less. Life keeps opening even when it's unclear. Peace doesn't come from perfect plans. It comes from a steady heart. That is the healing power of the Dharma. Trust the present and let each small step make the way. If we can keep walking when we can't see the road, the next step is to cultivate trust in ourselves and in conditions. So every upheaval becomes a beginning, not an end. Faith and fear. Wise trust versus blind belief. Have you ever found yourself believing in something, but deep down, it was really just fear in disguise? Maybe you believe that if you don't work yourself to exhaustion, your boss will dislike you, or that if you don't cling to your partner, they'll leave forever, or that if you don't beg some higher power, disaster will strike. That isn't faith. That's fear wearing the mask of belief. Blind belief. A double-edged sword-blind belief usually springs from fear and ignorance. It makes us dependent on others instead of ourselves, cling to uncertainty as if it were solid, do things against wisdom just because everyone else believes it. For example, someone hears that wearing a charm prevents accidents. They believe, but the root is fear, not understanding. Wise faith, the foundation of peace. In Buddhism, true faith is called sada or right trust. It's faith built on experience, reflection, and wisdom. Wise faith isn't blind. It arises from seeing clearly. Wise faith doesn't make us dependent. It helps us grow. Wise faith pairs with right view, seeing the impermanence and conditionality of all things. Example, trusting in karma, not from fear but from observation. When we plant good seeds, good results follow. When we plant harmful seeds, suffering arises. There was once a mother who always took her son to fortune tellers before exams. She believed that making the right offerings would guarantee his success. When he failed, she despaired, blaming heaven and earth. Later, through meditation, she realized, true faith isn't in the offerings, it's in my son's effort and awareness. She shifted from blind belief to wise trust. The result? Her son studied with more freedom, less fear, and made real progress. Common pitfalls. Mistaking faith for safety, using belief only to soothe fear, not to enlighten wisdom. Borrowing other people's beliefs, following the crowd without reflection. Believing without practicing. Faith without action is just empty words. A practice of 3 questions. Next, time you place your trust in something, ask, does this belief come from wisdom or fear? 2. Does this belief make me freer or more dependent? 3. Does this belief lead me toward peace? If the answers point to wisdom and freedom, you've found right faith. Tonight, write down one belief you hold. For example, if I don't push myself non-stop, I'll fail miserably. Then reflect. Does this belief truly help you grow, or just keep you anxious? If it's rooted in fear, replace it with a wiser one. I will give my best, but the results depend on many conditions. I don't need to live in fear. When we shift from blind belief to wise trust, we free ourselves from the chains of fear. We stop living in anxiety and start living in freedom. Wise faith isn't naively thinking, everything will magically be fine. It's trusting. Whatever comes, I have the strength to face it. That is the root of true peace. If wise faith helps us move beyond fear, the next step is to nourish it daily through practice, so it's not just a thought, but a living strength within us. The in-between space, growth. Lives in the unclear zone. Have you ever found yourself in a grey zone of life? You've left your old job, but the new one hasn't come yet. A relationship has ended, but your heart isn't ready for another. A plan has fallen apart, but the next path hasn't appeared. That in-between space often feels unsettling because we humans crave certainty, but in truth, the unclear zone is where we often grow the most. Why we fear the in-between. We lose the illusion of control. We're used to having immediate answers. We don't know what's coming next. But just like a seed needs time buried in the dark soil before sprouting, we too need times of quiet emptiness to reset and grow. Embracing impermanence Buddhism teaches, everything is impermanent. Nothing is fixed, not even uncertainty. The in-between itself will pass. Through the lens of dependent arising, we see that emptiness isn't meaningless. It's part of the process. Like a pause in music, it gives depth to the melody. Like winter, it allows the trees to rest before spring renewal. The transitional gap is a karmic condition, a chance to reflect, to learn, and to prepare for the next stage of growth. A friend of mine once lost his job after years in one company. At first he panicked, blamed himself, and felt worthless. But then he allowed himself rest. He studied, read, and meditated. Those 6 months became the most valuable time of his life. He rediscovered himself. Eventually, he entered a new career that suited him far better. He told me, if it weren't for that gap, I'd never have found the courage to change. Common pitfalls. Rushing to fill the void. Jumping into work, love, or distractions just to avoid emptiness. Measuring your worth only by results. Forgetting that resting is also part of growth. Fearing uncertainty, when in fact, uncertainty is what opens infinite possibility. A simple practice when you find yourself in an in-between stage. Breathe in and out. Acknowledge the unease. Instead of filling the gap, sit with it. Just observe. Tell yourself, this isn't the end. This is space for rebirth. Tonight, recall one unclear phase from your past. Write down, what did I learn during that time? How did it help me grow? You'll see that emptiness was never wasted. It was fertile ground for your next chapter. When we accept the transitional space, we let go of the need to control. We stop fearing uncertainty and see it as a gift, a chance to renew, to deepen, to grow. That in-between place becomes where we meet ourselves again, quiet, spacious, and full of possibility. If the in-between is where growth happens, the next step is to cultivate patience in times of waiting. So instead of panicking, we can rest, trust, and quietly expand. Practice. One step. One breath, staying present. Do you ever feel like you're rushing through life, walking fast, living fast, yet rarely truly present in each step? In the morning, you hurry to work, but your mind is already buried in tasks that haven't begun. At night, you walk outside, but your thoughts jump ahead to tomorrow. Even when sitting with someone you love, your mind is tangled in emails, messages, and plans. We walk, but we don't know we're walking. We breathe, but we forget we're breathing. The power of one step, one breath. The moment we pause to truly notice, a foot touching the ground, a breath flowing in, we instantly return to the present. One step can carry us out of anxiety. One breath can free us from the storm of thoughts. One moment of presence can heal an entire weary day. It's simple, yet profoundly deep. Mindfulness and the present moment in Buddhism, sati, mindfulness, is the ability to recognize what's happening right now, without judgment. The breath is the anchor. Each time we return to the breath, we return to the present. and the present is the only place life truly exists. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, a mindful step can bring you home to the present moment. A friend of mine once struggled with severe stress. He walked every day, but his mind was always elsewhere. One day, he tried his teacher's advice. Just take one step and one breath. He focused on his foot touching the ground, felt his breath flowing in and out. After only 10 minutes, his heart felt lighter, his stress softened. Over time, he told me, I'm no longer afraid of busy days because I know just one step, one breath can bring me back. Common pitfalls. Thinking meditation only works if it's long. In truth, one mindful breath can already shift your energy. Turning practice into pressure, forcing yourself to be mindful, creates more stress. Waiting for the right time to practice. Every step and every breath is an opportunity. A simple practice for tomorrow. When walking from your desk to the printer, or from your door to the car, try this. Take one step. Feel your foot touch the ground. Inhale, aware of the breath. Exhale, smile gently. Just a few mindful steps can make a difference. Tonight, before sleep, sit quietly for 2 minutes. Inhale, whisper silently, I'm breathing in. Exhale, whisper, I'm breathing out. That's it. One step, one breath. You've come home to yourself. When we stay present through a single step, a single breath, we stop being dragged by past regrets or future worries. We rest in the now, the only place where life, love, and peace truly exist. This practice not only calms the mind, but deepens our living, our loving, and our healing. If one step and one breath can bring us home, the next step is to learn to live fully in every small moment, so daily life itself becomes a practice of awakening. The inner bell of wisdom. When the mind lets go of control, have you ever heard a temple bell echo in the stillness? It's not loud, not hurried, just a low, steady resonance spreading outward, touching the soul. Hearing it, you naturally pause, breathe deeply, and notice a quiet brightness inside. In life, we too have such a bell, but it doesn't come from outside, it rings from within, and it only sounds when we loosen our grip, when the mind stops struggling for control. When the mind clings tight, we often try to control everything. Work must follow our plan. Others must behave as we expect. Life must unfold as we imagined, but the tighter we hold, the more anxious we become, like clenching a fist until it feels numb. In that noise of fear and ego, the inner bell of wisdom is drowned out. Letting go, allowing wisdom to ring in Buddhism, prajna, wisdom, doesn't come from force. It comes from stillness. When the mind is free from greed, anger, and delusion, when we release our grip on outcomes, wisdom naturally reveals itself. Like a lake, only when the wind stops does the water reflect the sky. When the mind softens, the inner bell rings, guiding us forward. A middle-aged man once told me he had lived his whole life trying to control everything. His family, his work, every detail. But the more he controlled, the more distant he became from his loved ones. After a major life crisis, he finally let go. He began breathing, meditating, trusting that each person has their own path. And strangely, the moment he stopped controlling, his family drew closer. He said, "For the first time, I heard a gentle bell inside me, telling me I don't need to control everything to be loved." Common pitfalls. Mistaking control for wisdom. In truth, control comes from fear. Wisdom comes from clarity. Fearing that letting go means loss. In truth, letting go opens the door. Waiting for an outer bell, forgetting the deepest bell is always within. A breathing practice. Hearing the inner bell, you don't need a physical bell, just the breath. Inhale. Imagine a gentle bell sounding inside. Exhale. Let the sound expand, carrying tension away. With each breath, hear your own wisdom ringing. Tonight before bed, close your eyes and ask, what have I been gripping too tightly today? Then breathe in, breathe out, and whisper, I release, so wisdom can ring. The inner bell of wisdom isn't a sound, but a clarity that arises in stillness. It reminds us we don't need to chase or clutch so hard, just returning, just loosening. We hear the bell ringing within. That is the deepest healing. When we no longer need the world's validation because we've found the light inside. If the inner bell only rings when the mind releases control, then the next step is to carry that clarity into daily life. So every step, every word, every breath becomes a bell of awakening. Dear friend, perhaps while listening, some words touched your heart. Maybe a phrase made you pause or a moment brought you peace. That alone means a seed of calm has been planted. In daily life, you may forget. You may get swept away, but with one slow breath, one soft smile, you'll hear that inner bell again. If this video has brought you value, I invite you, like to spread positive energy, share, to plant more seeds of peace among friends and loved ones. Subscribe, to walk together on this journey of Buddhist wisdom and daily healing. Because happiness isn't just a personal goal, it's a path we walk together. In daily life, you may forget, you may get swept away, but with one slow breath, one soft smile, you'll hear that inner bell again.